and working mighty long hours to keep this thing going. So if Angela is Floydwood Jr., we all know him as one of the most profound comedians and hosts of our time. I'll turn it over to them and I'll join them.
Okay, let's go, Angela.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this live stream. We are 21 hours in, and as we embark upon this 21st hour, my co-host and I, Roy Wood Jr., have a very, very special guest. He happens to have made Black history and history for all of America as the first Black governor of Maryland. His name is Wes Moore, and he joins us right now.
Good evening, good sisters. Good to be with you, Angela, and thank you. We love you, and we are so thankful for you and your leadership and everything you continue to do. And to everybody else, I just want to say not just good evening, but thank you for continuing to watch over us, continue to love us, continue to believe us, and to continue to spend your time.
So can I tell you something about embarrassing about
your time right now in a place, in a space where this is truly a celebration of us, when we know the assault that so many of us in our communities are feeling, when so much of the pain that our communities are inheriting right now. But I want to say that even at a time when we know the kind of pain that is being intentionally infused upon each and every one of us from a federal government, even at a time when I know that I'm standing here as the governor of the state of Maryland, where we have over 160,000 federal employees in the state of Maryland who right now are being questioned about the value that they bring to our society. People who have been working for Democratic and Republican administrations before, where politics has never entered into the equation, simply a love of people, and are now being told that the work that they are doing to make sure that our grandparents are getting the health care that they need. At a time when you people who are defending our country, both domestically and overseas, at a time when we have people who every single day are ensuring that our communities are safe, that our parks are open, that our homeland is protected, who are now being told that they are adding to inefficiency within our society. At a time when we know, when we're watching proposals like cutting hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts to things like Medicaid, at a time when we're watching basic freedoms and securities that we relied on and we believed in that are being challenged by people who have done nothing to sacrifice on behalf of this country themselves. I just want to say that I continue to be uplifted about the place and the space that I'm in right now. That I'm speaking to you from Annapolis. I'm speaking to you from a place, from the state of Maryland, that was literally the birthplace of Frederick Douglass. That was literally the birthplace of Harriet Tubman. That was the birthplace of Thurgood Marshall. About the place and the space that I'm standing here and coming here from Maryland, a place that is the northernmost southern state, a place that had the bloodiest battles of the Civil War, a place where the Mason-Dixon line literally runs through my state. And I'm standing here to say that we are all descendants of survivors. We're all descendants of those who came before us and saw the pain and saw the brutality that our society can intentionally inflict upon us. And they got up every morning and they said, still I rise, still I fight, still I conquer, and still I win. We are now just the most recent iteration of this journey. We do come from the blood of Tubman. We do come from the blood of Douglass. We do come from the blood of Shabazz. We do come from the blood of Marshall. And just like them, still I rise. And so even in the times when it can feel darkest, hold on to that light. Hold on to each other. And know that in this time when we stand strong, and yes, when we mobilize, that there is no weapon that is formed against us that shall prosper. We have been told, it is written, and yes, that joy will come inside the morning. And so I'm blessed to be with each and every one of you. Thank you to Angela and to Ed and to Roy and to everybody who made tonight happen. This was the fulfillment that we all needed tonight. This is the entertainment that we all needed tonight. This is the joy that we all need to feel tonight. And I'm here to say, I will rock with you tonight and tomorrow and always. We love you and God bless you and thank you.
Thank you so much, Governor Westmore.
Does
We
he
are
have time for one question or does he have to bounce?
Oh, I always got time for
Just one question. I'm not going to ask you about the samurai sword on the wall in the background. I know we don't have time for that, Governor Moore.
Oh, you can ask about that one.
no, not tonight.
That's getting ready to get used.
Okay.
You flipped the Republican gubernatorial seat to Democratic. As a candidate, what was one thing that you were able to do to help connect with Republican voters? As I feel a little deeper into this administration, as we get deeper into the first 100 days, I feel that some Republican voters are going to be a little more pliable coming up on midterms. Is there any one blanket thing or one piece of advice that you could give people as we start engaging Republican voters to get them to kind of see what's going on? It seemed like from the look of these town halls, some they starting to see what's happening.
No, they are. And you know, it's interesting, Roy, because I ended up winning with more individual votes than anyone who'd ever run for governor in the history of the state of Maryland. And the reason I bring that up is because just mathematically, you don't get that by just winning Democrats. We won Democrats, we won independents, we won a good chunk of Republicans. And I think the big thing was we had to show up and we had to be able to make our case to them. And I really do believe that one thing that we have seen is that you've seen how Trump, he masters something. It's this idea of telling people to be afraid of it and then telling people who's to blame for it, right? That is the strategy. That's the whole game. And it's rinse and repeat. It's rinse and repeat. It's either saying that the reason that my daughter is not winning a state championship is because they're allowing boys to play. The reason that my child is not getting into college is because of affirmative action. The reason that my son lost their job is because of DEI. The reason, and it's a rinse and repeat model. But here's the thing that I have found out, that if you are willing to go everywhere and you're willing to make your case and you are willing to show up, that you will be able to not just energize a base, you're actually going to be able to enlarge it. You're actually going to be able to bring more people on board. And then you just have to go out there and show that you know how to deliver results. And I think that's the reason that I think we've been able to not just get done what we've been able to get done in the state of Maryland, but I think we've been able to keep the vast majority of people on our side on it. But I think you got to be able to show up and you got to make the case, and do not let someone else define yourself. You go define yourself, but do not give anyone else that power to go define you.
Yes, sir.
I love it. Governor Westmore, we are so grateful for your service, for your time, and for your fight in what we know is a very, very difficult time, not just for our people, but all people. And that is why we are 21 hours into this marathon, and we will continue to go. We are not watching the lives on the State of the Union, but we will bring people into the knowledge of the truth here. So we wish you well. We thank you so much for making time for us tonight, and we'll see you soon.
God bless, family. Thanks.
God bless you. So, Roy, I want to do something a little different real quick. We have someone who is a queen and a sister to us. She said recently at Essence Black Women in Hollywood, she said, I recently went through a little breakup. You may have heard about it. So I want to bring Joy Reid up really quick because her name isn't just Joy. She is joy. She is walking joy. She illuminates joy. She oozes joy. And she has been such a tremendous treat for so many of us for so long. Joy, you join us tonight in this time to talk about the state of the people. We've been on this marathon. We started together, we ended together. We started from the bottom, now we're here. And so I just want you to talk about from your own journey, from where you are right now. You're also embarking on a new road in multiple ways. Yes, in this country, but also in media. Where do we go from here, Joy Reid?
Well, first of all, it was so much fun to go on this journey with you, Angela Rye, my good sister. We started at midnight. Then I think I was up to like 3, 4 in the morning, fell asleep with the phone right next to the bed, woke up to the beginning of the town hall. So I don't know what I missed, but I feel like it was in my spirit through my sleep. So this has been incredible. Like, this has actually been one of the most engaging, it just soul feeding 24 hours that anyone could have had. I think our community is just, our hearts are beating a little bit faster, knowing that we have this community. And Roy, my brother, listen, I just recently saw you in Utah, so I know you have big things coming up. I'm excited about everything that you're doing. So, and we'll just leave that. Well, I know you have a great project coming up, and I love you. So this has been amazing. I just want to thank everyone who has been a part of this, pulling it together. This has been a dream team, group team effort. It's been incredible. So I'm going to answer that question for you, and I'm going to answer it briefly because I know it's about brevity on tonight. And I just want to say for all of us, because we got like 50 people that want to come in and talk. So I'm going to be very quick, and I'm going to actually quote the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who in 1967 answered the very question that Angela has put to all of us for this incredible town hall. And the question is, where do we go from here? So in 1967, this is what he said, is that I want to say that as I move to my conclusion, as we talk about where do we go from here, that we must honestly face the fact that the movement must address itself to the question of restructuring the whole of American society. There are 40 million poor people here, and one day we must ask the question, why are there 40 million poor people in America? When you ask that question, you begin to question the capitalistic economy. And I'm simply saying that more and more, we've got to begin to ask questions about the whole society. And he says, when I'm questioning the whole society, it means ultimately coming to see that the problem of racism, the problem of economic exploitation, and the problem of war are all tied together. These are the triple evils that are interrelated. In other words, your whole structure must be changed. A nation that will keep people in slavery for 244 years will thingify them and make them things, and therefore they will exploit them and poor people generally economically. What I'm saying today is we must go from this convention and say, America, you must be born again. And so as we all watch Donald Trump and Elon Musk really dismantle our democracy, dismantle our society, I think that we understand that there's going to be rubble in the road. And the question is not, how do we build back what we had before? It's not about building back the previous status quo, which was obviously so dissatisfying and unsatisfying to people that people chose chaos. So I think where we go from here is starting to think about what we build from that rubble. What does this
like now, especially now, like today specifically, there feels like there's a reinvigoration. There feels like there's a, all right, we got to get our helmet. We got to go back out there on the field and get ready to fight again. What have been some of your strategies just in terms of just mental rest? And how are you able to, what advice would you give to people as they get ready to fight again, as they get ready to get back out there? What has been your self-care? And I'm not even talking just most recently with everything that happened, but just the duration of the election last year. You have to get up every single day and deal with this and put this into words for people. What were your strategies for just mental survival during this time?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, everyone cannot have Angela Rye's cell phone number because one of the strategies is to call, phone a friend. And I have to say, I have some of the greatest friends, not just the Machetes, Angie and the other Machetes, but my best friend, Miss Kim, Miss Jackie, that, you know, we do read this, read that together, but she also is like a counselor on the side for my wellness. And I think that the reality is, and of course, my husband, my bestie is my husband, Jason. I really think you have to lean into the relationships, the people around you, your friends, your family, because unless you're grounded in those personal relationships, you're not going to stay sane in this mess. And look, we as the 92%ers, we were sitting on that wall in that graphic, watching everything burn, but the fire has caught the building we were sitting on. And so as Black people and our 80%ers, our brothers that rocked with us in this election, we did not choose this. We did not cause this, but this fire is burning us up too. So the reality is we actually just now have to engage. We may have wanted to sit it out, but as you all know on this town hall, we don't have a choice now because this fire is consuming our house. So I think what we have to do, and I love the fact that we leaned into what the Black community is going to do to save ourselves, save our community, save the resources we fought for, save the positions we fought for, because we have to put the mask on ourselves before we can put the mask on the country. So I think unless we're strong as a community, cohesive, and unless we have a plan, we can't even really try to save this country. We've tried to do that for almost 500 years. And there are parts of the country that don't want to be saved. They want this fascism. They want to go in this direction. So I think what we have to do as a community, let's put the mask on ourselves. Let's get cohesive. Let's describe the nation we want, the society we want, and then we can form a plan. And part of that is a communications plan. How are we speaking with authority to our community? Who are our trusted voices? No one can choose that for us. Who do we trust? Where can we find them? How can we get access to what they have to say? And then how can we take what we hear and form a plan? Once that mask is on us, then we can start to plan for everybody else.
That's exactly right. Joy, thank you so much. I want to bring in, we have a big Black family gathering, y'all. I want y'all to see this. We have a full swath of experts, organizers, activists, attorneys who are here with us. And I really want you all to see how large of a gathering we have. And it's going to continue to grow over the next few hours. I'm trying to make sure we get the visual where y'all can see the pictures of everybody in here. Right now, it just looks like me and Roy. But hopefully soon, our production can figure out how to get the squares of everybody up. While we're doing that, though, I do want to take a moment, Roy, to recognize Congressman Glenn Ivey, who is joining us. Clearly, he is sitting with us and not in the House chamber. So I want to ask him why. Like, you chose clearly to sit out, Congressman. And I'd love for the listeners to know why. This has been a hot topic, Roy. I don't know if you and your chat groups look like mine, but people have been like, why him? So, Congressman, I would love for you, especially because you're an attorney, and so you know this man has broken many a law. Please tell us why you chose to sit out the State of the Union today.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Angela, Roy, and I appreciate what you're doing here. Thank you for pulling this together. And I thank you for hosting me because, you know, I really didn't want to go, and I wanted to do something that I thought was going to be positive and supportive instead of going to the State of the Union. And you offered this opportunity to do it. I know I've got colleagues in there. A lot of the Black Caucus, a lot of House Democrats went. You know, God bless them. I think it's fine, you know, depending on what room they're in, as long as we're all saying the same things. And I think we're all recognizing the need for a change to move forward. And I do feel like the tide's turning for us. You know, we've had a lot of good success with these court cases. There've been about 100 filed. You know, the legal teams that were put together by the unions and advocacy groups gotten a lot of injunctions put in place, probably around 30, and they've won almost all of those. And I think politically too, you know, his numbers are starting to drop. People are starting to realize that, you know, this was an okie doke. This was snake oil. He said he was going to try and help regular folks out economically, but he's really just trying to help out Elon and the billionaire buddies. And I think it's important to see too with the tariffs. I mean, because that's clearly not aimed at helping regular people. There's no way he can spend that. I don't know what he's going to say tonight, but you know, that's just taking money out of people's pockets as a sales tax. So, I didn't want to be part of being in there. I wanted to be out here. And once I heard that you all were doing this, I knew I'd rather be here working with you all in this community, with this strong team, with the, like Joy said, people moving in the right direction, moving together. And I wanted to be part of this instead.
I'm not sure, Congressman, can you hear Angela? I'm not hearing her.
I can't hear
you know
Angela.
why? Because I put it
Okay.
on mute, moving this notepad and
Okay.
forgot. That
Just
is
making
not
sure.
helpful. I was trying to test how well you could read my lips, Roy Wood Jr. Did you see?
I'm in here. I'm ready to jump in. You just say the word.
Well,
I
Roy,
appreciate
thanks
the
for
kindness
bailing
of
me
being
out, man. I thought my laptop had gone south or something.
Man, or hearing was going out something. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say the question of the day really is, where do we go from here? So given the amount of pressure that I know a lot of our members are facing, your colleagues on the other side of the aisle have been protested so severely in town hall meetings that they were like, you know what, hell with those town halls. We just gonna go forth and do something else. Where do we go from here? Do we continue in the fight? Do we become more united? What is your plan? What do you suggest that we do?
Yeah, I think all of that's right. I think we need to keep the pressure up. In fact, keep increasing it. There was sort of a lull after Trump won. I remember when he won the first time, we had thousands of people come out and march in the streets, and there was a lot of anger and everything. This time around, I think we were all in disbelief. Like, how could this country have elected
Congressman
this
Ivey,
dude
I don't
again?
want to cut you off, but I want to note right now, I'm not watching the State of the Union, but reports are coming out that Congressman Al Green has been carried out of the House chamber. So I think that
he wasn't carried out. He walked out of his own will.
So
But
who
they
said he
stopped
got carried out?
Well, it looked
Oh,
like they
you
were going
said
to
that,
escort him
Mark.
out.
Put
Yeah,
this
yeah. They
information
came.
in
It
the chat.
appeared. No, well, that's why I put it in chat. It appeared they were going to arrest him, but he decided to leave of his own free will. Vince and I just below the chamber, but he stopped the speech. Al Green stood up as the one Democrat and stopped the speech. So he's coming out, and we're gonna go try to see if we can get him now and bring him down here to us. So we may see him in a minute.
That would be great.
On it, boy.
Okay.
So this is what the fight looks like then, Congressman Ivey.
He cut in. Let me take you the facts right now. I'm wearing a suit and I'm in the building. I'll report back in a second.
That's all right. This is what democracy looks like, right? I got a note saying Al got escorted out, but that's Al. He's I think he might have already filed articles of impeachment against Trump. So that's his approach, and I God bless him. The key is that we're all working together on the same team, trying to accomplish the same goal, because we recognize how destructive Trump has been just in it's like 50 days, and he's put the jackhammer to like everything across the board, especially things affecting the African American community. The Title I stuff. He was trying to cut funds for schools, Medicare. The Republicans like almost a $1 trillion cut, and that's taking health care away from folks, and Obamacare too. African Americans, but also low income folks in those red and rural states are going to be hit by that as well. And so we've always led the charge as African Americans for the fight for equality. And justice in this country.
Need the same things. Has it changed much from the data that you all pulled? I know over 250,000 Black people eventually filled out that survey. It's the largest in United States history, but I think we still got a road to go. We got a lot more Black people than who filled out the Black census. When you look at the data then and where we are now, where do we go from here just when you look at that data?
Yeah, we surveyed 211,000 people, and we're going to do it again in 2026. We're going to survey 300,000 Black people. But what they overwhelmingly said is that we need an economy that works for us, and specifically wanted expansion of Medicaid, wanted help for childcare, wanted wages that have our dignity in mind. And now this last 50 days has meant that we need that even more than we even needed it a year ago. And I think we're going to see that with this budget that just proposal that came through that's going to slash Medicaid. And so for us, it's about getting into community. We believe that the antidote to fascism is building community, and to be in community all year round so that more and more people share what they want, and we can get to what Joy said, that imagination about where we want to go as a people, what we want to win, and build a strategy to get there.
Love that. Ariva Martin and Damario Solomon-Simmons are here. And I want to go to you all because one of the places that we've seen people lean in, Roy, you've seen this too, are around a legal strategy. With this president, most of what has taken place to stop executive action, where there have been more than 119 executive actions taken so far, over 95 lawsuits filed against this administration. You all have also worked to take justice into your own hands, not challenging Donald Trump, but challenging the white supremacist system that birthed Donald Trump in the form of reparations. I'm thinking of the cases that both of you all have. Ariva, I want to come to you first, and then Damario, you, because we are still fighting for justice for the survivors of Black Wall Street. But Ariva, I want to come to you first around you had Palm Springs, you've Bruce's Beach. There's so much work that you've done in this space, and there are so many cases like this that Black folks haven't had the PR or the attention around to really see justice. So we also have some roads to plow there. And I think it's important that we know that we are fighting on every side, but there is still hope.
Thanks so much, Angela. Thanks, Joy. Thanks to everyone that pulled this together. I'm still a little sleepy from my 1 a.m. Part of the 24-hour marathon, but it was so incredible to be a part of the marathon over the last 20 plus hours. Folks who were up, who were watching, just such a phenomenal job done by the entire team. So kudos to everyone working behind the scenes and all the folks who were up all night watching. But you're right. Damario and I have been involved in some of the biggest reparations cases in the country. And when Joy talks about reimagining really what this country should be and not going back to where we were, reparations should be on the top of the list of things that Black folks should be thinking about. For so many years, so many decades, we were told it was impossible. We were told it was a fringe theory, it was a fringe concept, and how dare we have the audacity to expect or to believe that this country would make amends, would acknowledge the sins against Black folk and then do something about it in the same way that they have done for so many other people. Cornell Brooks at Harvard Kennedy School wrote a brilliant piece a couple of months ago about all the ways that this country pays reparations on the regular, on the daily, to so many different groups of people. But yet when it comes to Black folks, the concept of reparations, the concept of giving us what we are justly entitled to, people get all nervous about it. They start clutching their pearls in so many ways, reveal their racism about myths about Black folks. We're not responsible with money. We hear folks say, well, we didn't do it. Why should we have to pay for the sins of our fathers? We hear these, repeated excuses, folks not acknowledging the benefits that they reap in this country every day from the uncompensated wages and forced labor of enslaved people. So yes, Angela, there is a movement around this country. Reparations committees have been started at the state level, at the local level. People are organized, people are mobilized, people are enthused. This is the moment. And I just hope that at the national level, my good friend Glenn, Congressmember Ivy is on this call. I hope that Congress has the courage to do what some local administrative bodies have had the courage to do. But if anyone is feeling like reparations is out of reach, I'm just here to encourage you. Reparations is very much in reach, is very much available, is very much something that we should all be united around. And as we reimagine what this country should look like going forward, please, please, please remember the debt owed to the descendants of enslaved people. And I'm just proud to be in this fight in Palm Springs and St. Louis and communities all over this country.
Thank you, Ariva. Damario, I want to come to you, particularly around what we can be doing to ensure that we keep what's happened in mind, that we continue the fight for justice, and the other ideas around Black Wall Street. It's very existent. So even if they did decimate Black Wall Street, the ideas that we can hold on to despite its destruction. And we should never forget it. But how do we hold on to the fabric of what Black Wall Street was? And you're on mute, D. I did that too. Don't worry.
Well, thank you for having me here, and just excited by everything everyone is saying about pulling this together. You know, I represent the last two living survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre, 110-year-old Mother Viola Ford Fletcher, 110-year-old Mother Leslie Benefield Randall. And in my over 25 years of working on trying to get justice and reparations for Greenwood, I spent probably more time than most people can imagine with people that are over 95 years old and several people over 100. And so what I want to tell people today as we continue to fight for justice for those two women is I want you to all right now think Greenwood. I want you to think Greenwood now, because think Greenwood is what will get us to where we want to be. Think about that Greenwood was created, this Black Mecca. Over 12,000 Black people came together, created all types of businesses, over 200 successful businesses, over 1,550 homes and businesses before the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. And they did that during the nadir. They did that during a time that's much like the time we're living in here and under this MAGA 2.0 moment. And there was 5 founding principles of Think Greenwood. Number 1 was community love. Number 2 was self-determination. Number 3 was ownership. Number 4 was wealth and education concentration. And number 5 was resilience. These are the founding principles of Greenwood. And this is what we need to emulate today and make sure we understand that Greenwood and Black Wall Street here in Tulsa was more than a physical location. It was a mind state. And so what I'm asking everyone to do on this call, and for everyone that's listening, to go to thinkgreenwoodnow.com, thinkgreenwoodnow.com, and sign the pledge that you will live by these 5 core principles. And then this is more than just talking about action. This is about a plan to move forward. That's thinkgreenwoodnow.com. And you can connect with us and connect with these survivors who are still fighting for justice and reparations, not just for themselves, not just for their community, but for the entire Black community. They're standing strong. You know, Angela, you know this. They have been at every court hearing. They've been back and forth to DC. You talked about Representative Green. Representative Green has come to Tulsa and stood with us. He is going to put forth legislation on behalf of reparations, because as Aretha, my good friend, stated, reparations is necessary for the structural changes we need. Listen, the racial wealth gap is worse than it was in 1968. And so as we talk about everything else besides, DEI and anti-woke and all these things, if we don't have structural changes, as Joy talked about, we will never get the racial wealth gap to be shrunk. And that requires reparations. But we start that by thinking Greenwood. Go to thinkgreenwoodnow.com, sign the pledge, and let's get to work.
I love that so much, Damario. Roy, I was watching you when Damario was talking about going to thinkgreenwood.com, and I didn't see you take a note. You've been standing right into that light.
You didn't see me look down real quick.
Think Greenwood now.
Thinkgreenwoodnow.com?
Thinkgreenwoodnow.com.
See, Roy, did you write that down?
I muted myself so that you wouldn't hear the click clack on the keyboard.
Oh, okay.
I was down here. You know my mama taught keyboarding at Miles College. Shout out to Miles College. I was looking up.
Well, we need to go to take this pledge. So, Damario, you said there's 5 principles.
Yeah, 5 principles. Community love that built Greenwood. One of the things about the community love, it's about making sure that we are standing together. We're doing everything to make sure that we can all be successful, but also making sure we understand this we, not the I. And that's what built Greenwood. Self-determination. You understand that Greenwood was built during a time where more lynchings were going on, open white supremacy, white segregation, but people went to Greenwood to be free, to build and have a life, as they would call it, to be a person. Ownership. People wanted to own their businesses, own their property, own their communities, and have ownership of themselves. And we've seen over the last decades upon decades that regardless of anything, we're going to have to take ownership for ourselves as we continue to fight for better policies. And then wealth and education concentration. We have to focus on building wealth and becoming better educated about what it takes to build generational wealth. I know we all just saw the tragic news of Angie Stone that was killed in a car accident just a few days ago. When things like that happen, one of the things I think about is I hope she had her estate plan in place. I hope she had her life insurance in place. I hope she had a discussion with her family, what's going to happen to her royalties and her intellectual property. These are things that we have to start thinking about today. The fires out in Altadena, the same thing. These things can happen. So we have to think about our wealth and education concentration. And then fifthly, the resilience. And that's what we're showing tonight. We're showing despite open white, this is a dangerous time. There will be some dark days, but we must be resilient. And if nothing else, think Greenwood now, and we can get through this thing.
I want to go to April Verrett, who has made tremendous history. We're talking about resilience, and we know that many of our labor union brothers and sisters and family members are deeply resilient. Y'all have been on the front lines of some of these lawsuits, labor unions writ large. When you think about the inherent connection to that question, April, where do we go from here? Something that Dr. King asked all of us. And of course, he had a tremendous strategic partnership with labor. Where do you think we go from here now in 2025, given the tremendous setbacks that we are all collectively experiencing?
So thanks, Angela, and everyone. Incredible show of resilience and spirit, and how much we can center this squabble up in joy and in love and in community. And to the question of where do we go from here, I'm so glad Joy invoked the spirit of Dr. King, because it is the very same things he called for that is unfinished business, that is the North Star, I believe, for where we go from here. We have to, I believe, join forces and build enough power to end poverty and systemic and structural racism forever. And if we center those who are suffering, continuing to suffer from economic exploitation, it's us, right? It's our other sisters and brothers and people of color. It's women, it's immigrants, right? When we center ourselves and when we build enough power for ourselves to dismantle the systems of poverty and racism in this country, I think we can begin to get stuff done. And I think that we have to stage, as folks have been saying, a fight. I don't get the Donald Trump phenomenon, but I've been thinking a lot about it. What attracts folks to that type of leadership? And I believe Americans are people who want to feel protected, have to have that same energy. In this moment, we got to show that we are going to protect and we are going to defend what we care about, right? That vision that Joy talked about, I think is so important. And how are we not abandoning what we know we need in our communities? I don't give a damn. We should be out there talking every day about when they're going to raise the minimum wage. You care so much about working people. When you going to vote on raising the minimum wage? You care so much about working people. When are you going to put policies in place that stop price gouging and unnecessary fees that rob the poor? You care so much about working people. When are you going to invest more in our community? So the very things that we need, now is the time to stand up the fight for them unapologetically. And the last thing I'll say, Angela, is I have come to believe that we are in the civil society because we want to fix things, right? We want to be fixers. We want to put balm on. We want to throw water on fires. Now is the time to throw fuel on the fire. Now is the time to blow up the spot. right? It is not a time to shrink. It is not a time to be small. We have to blow up their spot in the way that they are trying to blow up ours. And I think we got to do that in a focused and a prioritized way. We got to pick our battles, folks. We cannot get sucked into every single skirmish they want to suck us into. We will exhaust ourselves by Memorial Day. So let's focus and let's prioritize and let's fight like hell.
So while we were talking, it's also been dropped in the chat that Congress members Frost, Crockett, and Presley have also walked out of this joint address of Congress for Donald Trump. So this is an opportunity. I feel like we got to bring in some of the youngest. So I want to go to Zai. Zai Bryan, I want to come to you because it is so important to have young voices on here. You all are not just our future, you're our present. I want to know if the actions taken by members of Congress who are walking out in this moment resonate with you, with them, some of your peers. I'm not going to do you like white folks do and be like, tell me what do black people think. It's not going to be one of those. But I am curious to know.
As a youth.
as one of the youths. Do you like white folks do and be like, tell me what do black people think. It's not going to be one of those. But I am curious to know.
As a youth.
as one of the youths. Right? Yeah. Like, do you feel seen by that act of protest? What would you have expected from members of Congress tonight?
Well, thank you for having me first. Secondly, young people, as you said, are not just the future. We are the current moment. I'm encouraged by seeing them walk out because so often young Black people are told we have to conform, we have to be like everyone else, we have to, just make our way to the top, and we can't be outspoken, we can't say our true thoughts, and we can't really stand up in the ways that we want to. So I'm happy to see the people who have made it into those positions walking out and being very clear on where they stand and not leaving any room for any bad interpretations of what they may think or believe. But I mean, I think one of the reasons why I'm even running for office, I just launched my campaign for school board in Charlottesville. And the reason why I'm running for office at 24 is because I believe that we are ready to lead. And I don't want people to use age as a proxy for experience, because I think that young people bring a lot to the table. We bring a lot of unique perspectives. We bring a lot of thoughts and ideas and innovative ways at going at things that we're facing in the current moment, all of the challenges that we're seeing. So I think that if young people are able to be supported, we all do well. But additionally, we need intergenerational base building. And so it will require young people to respect, the past, the elders, the work that they have done and the foundation that they've laid in order to inform the work that we hope to do in the future.
Thank you so much, Zai. It's on my heart to go to this lovely young woman. Congresswoman Marsha Fudge is how I met her. But most recently, she was the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, where actual change did happen during that administration and under her watch. She also is the former president of Delta Sigma Theta, and she is such a gem. I have to ask you, Congresswoman, because I'm still saying Congresswoman, Madam Secretary. When you watch your colleagues tonight as they sit in the House chamber, I want to know, if you put yourself back in their shoes, what you would have done, and any advice you have for them going forward about how they deal with someone who is actively working to destroy democracy.
First, let me say I'm very proud of them. The one thing that I always believed when I was a member of Congress is that there were enough of us that we did not have to ask for permission. We sit back too often and want to find out, what does the group want to do? How do we all want to work together? Sometimes we just need to stand up. And this is one of those times I think that the caucus in particular needs to stand with all its might. Because when you are 60 members of Congress, you are strong. And I think we have to use the power that we have. So I'm very, very proud of them. I probably would not have gone. But those who did go, I am glad. I really feel so good about them standing up and letting people know what they think. Because the more we stay silent, the more we are ignored. And so I'm really, really happy about what I'm hearing.
I want to go to the nation's oldest civil rights organization. The president is our good brother, Derrick Johnson. I have to ask you, what is the NAACP telling us to do going forward? How are you all going to help us march forward, keep pressing on, keep pressing, keep hope alive, and also keep the pressure on this administration that doesn't seem to be accountable to any one of us, is only yielding to entities that have money to buy? It feels like this administration is for sale. I'm not trying to put you in a partisan question. So I will just say, as a general matter, we know that it seems that white supremacy is ruling the land here. And it seems like people who are poor and don't have something to offer them are put in harm's way. And we're seeing that with the federal freezes. We're seeing that with the funding cuts. We're seeing that with the proposed budget. Across the board, we are seeing that. How is the NAACP recommending that Black folks watching at home fight back?
Well, great question, and thank you all for organizing this. The last 43 days was the distraction. The real fight starts on March 14th with the continuing resolution budget. This is about the money. Many folks outside of our community, they're going to begin to feel the pain. They want to do away with Social Security. Let's be very clear. They want to do away with Medicaid and Medicare. They want to redefine the role of government. And so as we have been consumed with DEI and all the things that are out there, the crown jewel of all of this was to get their base motivated, get us distracted so they can drive a Mack truck through the budget and redefine everything, privatize services. So leading up to March 14th, we need to be telling members of Congress who we put in office, don't cut a deal without guarantees. Don't be worried about shutting down the government when we know if they get a clean CR through September, no matter what they say, Trump is going to disavow all the money that they appropriate. So between now and March 14th, we need to talk to all the Democratic leadership. Don't cut a deal unless you have a guarantee in legislation that the money will be spent as necessary. Now, when we get to the new budget, that's the real fight. Everything else has been a distraction. For NAACP recognizing, for Black folks recognizing, race is a tool. Money is the game. And we have to figure out how not to get distracted with racialized questions when at the end of the day, they are trying to redefine the role. The special elections are coming up. We have to play in those elections. But unfortunately, we will feel some pain. But white folks gonna feel some pain too, because if they cut Medicaid, there's a lot of folks gonna leave nursing homes because they're dependent on Medicaid. If they cut SNAP, the biggest benefactors of SNAP is the Walmarts of the world and all of the farmers. They have already felt the pain with USAID being cut. Those farmers in Mississippi. Cindy Hyde-Smith, the senator here where I live, are all already telling farmers she's trying to get exceptions from Trump on USAID because they're losing money. So the focus now forward is about how all these programs are about to be cut and white folks are beginning to feel the pain. And we need to tell CBC members who want to capitulate, thinking this is business as usual, Democratic members who want to capitulate, think they can cut a deal. There is no deal to get cut. If government gets shut down because they don't get what they need from the CR bill, so be it. Because if it goes forward with them being able to appropriate through September and still not spend the money on the entitlement programs, we're no better for it. So right now, let's focus on the budget. Let's focus on the budget fight. And the only tool Democrats have right now is not to support the continuing resolution unless they get some things in place to force the Republican Party and Trump to do what's necessary. We may be nonpartisan, but we're political as hell. This is not a partisanship conversation. This is about saving and protecting our democracy and progress made.
President Johnson. Go ahead.
No. Go, Ray.
President Johnson, now, if that's the directive to our elected officials, how do we convey something similar to our brothers and sisters who are just out here in the electorate, our friends who get caught up in the algorithm of swipe, 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 and some of them distractions will get you riled up. There were 2 cops who were convicted of killing. So I don't remember the city, but they were reinstated to their respective police force this week. There's, granted, I don't write anything off as outlandish anymore, but there's talk of people proposing a Derek Chauvin pardon for some point. but you know they're gonna try and sneak in around Juneteenth. Something like that, it's not policy, but it emotionally empowers a base that has been misinformed to then continue to push back on all of the things that as an electorate, we actually need to be paying attention to. So how do we help drive voters to educate themselves and not get caught up in the algorithm of distractions? Or how do you allocate your attentions over here? Put 80% on SNAP and Medicaid, and then you throw 20% over here on police officers getting pardoned.
Well, that's the fight we're in. The controlling the narrative in this moment is most important. CBS is compromised because they have an issue of merger in front of the FCC. Comcast is compromised because they don't want to lose the broadband money, the tens of billions of dollars they got for broadcast. Therefore, MSNBC and NBC, they're paralyzed. Disney is compromised because of the regulatory issues they're concerned with. The social media platforms as they exist are all trying to resist antitrust legislation. The fight we're in is around the control of narrative. And we have to figure out how to platform somewhere where we can get enough people to see what's taking place and control the narrative. If I had the solution to that, that's the silver bullet that we all need to have. But unfortunately, the median age of our community is 32.6 years old. That means almost half of our population grew up in school districts without ever having civics or social studies. They don't understand the role of government, the levels of power. And so our fight is more about how do we keep our people informed and focused than it is anything else. That is the fight that we are in.
Absolutely. And speaking of the fight, I wanted to go to someone who is another young leader. His name is Yusuf Omer, and he is an SGA president at an HBCU. You talked about Miles College earlier, Roy. And so I want to know what the fight looks like for students at historically Black colleges and universities where you all are being told that your funding could get hit too. This is the same man who took credit for giving funding to y'all that he did not give, and has criticized the last administration for actually giving him. So I want to know what the fight looks like on a student level, what you all are talking about, how you all are talking about mobilizing when your education is on the line, and actually your bodies could be on the line as well.
Absolutely, Angela, and just thank you for having us on here. Thank you for highlighting young people, understanding that we are not the future, we are the now. Understanding that HBCUs have been the backbone for years, for hundreds of years, of Black excellence, producing leaders, innovators, change makers, people in all different walks of life in every single field, despite being historically underfunded. That's just reality, and that reality is clear as day, that each HBCU in these United States does more with less. If we say that we truly value education and value our young people, we must invest in every institution that has invested back in us. Federal funding for HBCU shouldn't be a charity, and it shouldn't be something that people can threaten to take away. It should be something that our government should continually invest and add more to. I look at it like federal funding for us at HBCUs is a debt owed to the legacy of what we do, of what our ancestors fought for, and the brilliance that these institutions represent. When you fund the HBCU, you literally fund the future of Black leadership, of Black culture, of economic power, and social progress in this country. And as students, we're working on not only mobilizing, but we're now having students run for office while they're in college. We have students at HBCUs running for city council. These are hometown heroes that we need to shed the light on. We need to donate to their campaigns. We need to support them. And we need to educate. I want to shout out my professor. The reason I'm here, Dr. Wes Bellamy, these are the environments that we're cultivating at HBCUs, classrooms, and discussions and ideas and debates that are not only staying in the classroom. These ideas, debates, and discussions are now being traveled to different boardrooms and into houses of government and state legislators. So it's definitely needed. Funding for HBCU should never stop, and the research funding for HBCU should never stop.
I want to call up Wes Bellamy, Dr. Wes Bellamy, who is, yes, a professor, but also the social action chair for 100 Black Men. Talk about the role, Wes, that you all must play. Also in supporting Black women who doing this work already, but we need to be standing together talk about the important role that you all play right now and where we go from here, and talk about some of the things that you all are doing next or right now that folks can engage in.
Sure. Sure. First and foremost, major kudos to you. I call you the Chris Paul of the movement, Angela, for always being an architect. She's always passing the ball, setting people up, and she can be nice, nasty when she needs to get us. We need to stay on topic.
Great analogy.
So let me. So yeah, thank you, sis. Much love. As Yusef alluded to, we know that HBCUs play a very pivotal role in our community, but just as important as it is for us to support our HBCUs, we need to support Black students no matter what institution they're at. We see PWIs under attack. Our Black students, whether that be in Black student unions, we saw this information come out right there at Ohio State University about potentially their Black student union being shut down. We've seen certain things transpire at University of Virginia, where I live right next to. I mean, there's a multitude of institutions at multitude of students at PWIs and HBCUs alike who need our assistance. So Angela, when you ask the question, what do we do in the immediate? I think that means showing up. Yusef made a really good point in terms of how there's young people who are running for office right now. We just had Zayana Bryan on earlier. She's running for city council. I would encourage us all in the immediate to donate to her campaign. I just donated $100. I asked for anybody on here to match that. That's a young person on here right now who's out doing the work, and she's committing herself to get in the fight. So we all can do something in the immediate today by supporting her. On a broader scale and on a larger scale, when we talk about different things specifically in our community, tomorrow or Friday or next Tuesday or next month, I think it's about doing three things. One, we have to be able to endure and mentally and emotionally prepare ourselves to be able to endure what's going on in front of us. There's going to be a lot of fatigue that we feel both emotionally and mentally from just all of the things that are coming on in our bodies. So I think it's important to be able to have your happy space, take the time away when you need it, be able to rest when you need to, and then again, be prepared to go out and get up and fight the next day, because there will be a fight tomorrow. Secondly, when it comes to on a local level, we all need to be looking at how we can be engaged today. Whether that means showing up at a city council meeting, showing up at a school board meeting, showing up to a PTA or PTO meeting, we can all go and do those things today. And then thirdly, we know that we're gonna have to contact and support our legislators, whether that be persons like Jasmine Crockett and others who we know are on the front lines and they're speaking out and speaking boldly. But in addition to those folks, we need to be agitating the individuals who aren't as loud, the quote unquote moderate Democrat or the moderate liberal or the moderate independent or the radical Republican. We need to be agitating and bringing the smoke to all of them the same way that y'all work for us. I saw a small clip just a second ago. Somebody sent it to my phone of a sister during the State of the State of the Union, and there was a coward. I mean, there was a congressman who snatched the paper. She said she had a paper that said, "This is not normal." And he snatched the paper out of her hand and then threw it up in the air like hip, hip, hooray. Like that should infuriate us and motivate us to go to work. Me personally, I would want to do some other things, but I'm going to channel my energy to go do some work within the community. And I think those are the things that we can do right now. Like everybody isn't going to mobilize a 5,000 person march. Everybody isn't going to be able to put together this prolific town hall, but we all can do something in our communities first, in our neighborhoods next, in our states and congressional districts after that. So let's go get to it. I challenge y'all to work not only with me, but everyone else on this call and those who we don't know, so we can get to work.
And on that, Wes, speaking of getting to work, there is somebody that's all about that work that is now with Reverend Mark Thompson, Ayanna Presley, the Congresswoman who is about that life. Real OG is here and she is ready to talk to us. So Congresswoman Presley, welcome. We are so happy to see you. We so glad you walked out, girl.
Tell us glad you walked out.
You're feeling.
What she can't. We're relaying what you're saying.
Oh, okay. Well, translate that. Tell us what we said. Go, girl.
She said, "Go, girl." That's what she said. You can hear me, okay? You all
We
can
can
hear me
hear
all right?
you, but I'm
All
saying
right.
she can't hear us. Yes.
So tell us, Congresswoman, God bless you. What happened upstairs?
Yeah, well, we walked out.
How many?
Probably about 20 of us, but there were many people participating in silent protests with different signs that said things like Musk steals, protect Medicaid, protect veterans. You know, so there were forms of protests taking place in many iterations, including from Representative Al Green. Yeah, this is a form of protest. I went very briefly because I was here to hold space for my guest, who is a probationary federal worker who worked at HUD, who enforces national fair housing laws. She's also a wheelchair user. And so she navigated a lot of ableist spaces to be here today. So to honor her, I went to take up space, but I knew that I was not going to stay there because we cannot normalize this. This man has no respect for Congress. He does not respect us as a co-equal branch of government. He has contempt for the American people. He pardoned January 6ers who desecrated the very well that we are in today for this joint address of Congress or State of the Union. So I don't need to be there for a MAGA pep rally, listening to lies and propaganda, hateful rhetoric, and even more hateful and harmful policies. And those policies are coming for every single person that calls this country home. Listen, I've been in Congress 6 years. I've never walked out of a joint address of Congress or a State of the Union, not even for the occupant's first term. I've never walked out. But this is not normal. This is a fascist dictator. And I could not sit there and pretend that that man is unfit to be president. He is not the president. And so if he has contempt for the American people, I'm going to stand in solidarity with the American people. And that is why I walked out in protest at 9:40. These boots were definitely made for walking. And again, I wanted to bring visibility to the story of the federal worker from my district who was fired unlawfully, unjustly. And it not only is disrupting her life and livelihood, but it's a disservice to the people that she serves every day.
Speaking of this is not normal, a member had a sign.
Oh, yeah, let me tell you about that. Okay, so Melanie Stansbury had a sign. Shout out, rest in peace and power to Sheila Jackson Lee. She was sitting on the aisle. Representative Jackson Lee used to sit for hours to hold that seat on the aisle. Melanie Stansbury was in that seat with a sign that said, "This isn't normal," because it ain't. And as Trump was making his way down the aisle, a Republican colleague, I think from Texas, but I don't want to misrepresent, leaned across the aisle, snatched the sign and threw it up in the air.
That's assault.
We're talking about that.
So the 20 who walked out, was this all Black Caucus?
No, it was a mix of Congressional Black Caucus and Congressional Progressive Caucus, but I would say that there were more members of the CBC.
And you said you did not plan to stay in the race. You knew you would probably walk.
I wasn't going to. Well, honestly, I wasn't going to come at all because, again, this is not normal. This is, in what other setting would we give audience to a fascist dictator? I want to be very clear, though. There's honorable in front of our names, every single member of Congress, for a reason. I respect my colleagues and how each of them decided to demonstrate protest, how they chose to center their guests for tonight. For me, I could not sit there. That very chamber was desecrated by January 6th insurrectionists that he pardoned. He does not respect us as a co-equal branch of government. He has no respect for us. So it's insult to injury. So again, if he has contempt for solidarity with the people, and honestly, it was a part of a broader Democratic strategy to have different forms.
Yeah.
Say hello, Congresswoman.
Oh yeah.
Dove is here as
Do y'all
well.
know this sister? She is the truth.
We got y'all tangled up in these wires. So tell it. So what did you all walk out at the same time? Or?
So, this is my queen, Ayanna Presley. I take all guidance from her. Yes. And essentially, we did all walk out together. We, in our minds, had an idea of what we were going to do. I think each of us said, there's only so much shit that I can take, right? When I have to keep flushing this toilet. And we walked out within 4 minutes of each other. It was a small wave of us.
And there was also, I heard it was a plan to wear black. Was that kind of a, uh-huh.
Mark.
Signs. Go ahead,
Mark,
Roy.
could you ask either of them, do they feel like
Also, I
if
just wanna
behind
say I love
closed
all y'all.
doors,
So
if
just
behind
thank you
closed
for this
doors,
critical
any
Wait.
of the Republican officials are
Wait.
starting to turn against Trump?
Do you get the sense any of the Republican members are starting to turn against Trump?
No, they're scared, but they also are mad at themselves for having no courage. And they're mad at us because we are the mirror of courage that they should have.
And it would seem too,
There's no Republican Party. It is
Right, that's right.
it's a cult of cowards that are complicit in wholesale harm.
and they have a majority that he even deems irrelevant because he just skips right over them, right? I mean, they don't even matter.
They not only abdicated their responsibility in this moment for our shared constituents, they have ceded their congressional authority and power because of their fealty and loyalty to Donald Trump and not to the people that elected them. Go
And
ahead.
what is so very scary is that Donald Trump is trying to merge the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch. We have seen Congress yield to him, the Republicans, and we have to make sure that the judiciary does not do what these Republicans in Congress have done.
That's right.
I know I speak for everyone here. Angela, you got a quick question you want me to relay?
I don't. Just let them know we stand with them. I'm going to go to some of their colleagues here to get a reaction, but tell them we stand with them and we thank them for their courage.
We all stand with you. We thank you for your courage. You know, you got to do this. So I'm glad you all did that. And, you know, I don't know if you could hear him. He started whining. They don't love me. They don't ever clap for me. When I came up here for 5 years, they didn't clap. I mean, he went to this, you know, that whole Rodney Dangerfield, don't nobody love me thing.
Clap.
Well-
Tell the truth and we'll clap.
Tell the truth.
And we'll clap. Do your fucking job and we'll clap. But if you're going to kill us, if you're going to fire us, if you're going to take away our rights, then we are not going to clap. We are going to come for you.
That's right. That's damn right.
That's why y'all know she was loud when she said she takes all her cues from me.
That's right.
Do you?
Hold it, Damario.
Well, because they can't hear us, Mark. I want to just jump in here. There was someone who's a good friend of ours, our good brother, Gary Chambers, who has been relentless about let's call our members, let's make sure they know we don't even want them to go. Tell them to go somewhere else. I want to get his live reaction to what he's hearing right now. Gary, chime in here.
I want to say thank you to the members of Congress who had the courage to stand up, because at the end of the day, we don't have to act like this is normal. We don't have to sit there and just allow him to lie in our faces. And I think that if we are going to stand in the spirit of our ancestors, that is to resist in both strategic ways and visible ways, so this government understands where we are.
In a strategic way. That's what he was just saying.
Okay.
So we all
Mark,
agree.
We're gonna mute you to translate, but we gotta keep the panel
Well,
going.
no, but I'm gonna
Yes.
say one thing. Since
Okay.
Damario was here and we talked, and Ariza was here, we want to introduce those of you who don't know. She mentioned Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. She has inherited the mantle from the spirit of
Right.
Sheila Jackson Lee and John Conyers. Ayanna Presley is now the primary sponsor of HR 40 reparations now. So we appreciate that. Maxwell Frost is here. Jasmine Crockett is around, and I think Al Green is still coming. I'll be back.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mark. We got Mark on the spot. Forget Johnny Roy. We got Mark on the spot. And he brought us right to our protesters that know what time it is. It is State of the People, y'all. It ain't State of the Union. It ain't a joint address. This is our time, and it is so good to be alongside people with courage. I want to go to some sisters that I know carry the mantle for courage all the time. Bishop Leah Daughtry, I want to come to you, and Siobhan Arline Bradley. I also want to come to you simultaneously. I want to hear what y'all think about that. And now that we've had some sisters show up, show out, say that we're not going to sit here and listen to this nonsense, what do people at home do with that same courage? How can we motivate and activate that same courage? I also want y'all to know I came to them because these are my side pastors, okay? They get a prayer through and they'll get us some action that is rooted in faith. So I want to hear from you all about what you think we do with that.
The side pastor, you got a main pastor?
Side pastors. No,
And then
I
you
call
got
them on the side. I got a main line right to them.
Okay. Oh, I thought you meant
Get
like
them
you
on
had
the
two
side.
pastors. Oh, never mind. My mind. I'm sorry.
See, Roy, that's why, you know what? Somebody block him.
Well, I'll start. Siobhan, go ahead, Siobhan. You go.
Well, I'll first of all shout out to the love tonight. I suspect the ancestors are well and resting well because of what's happening right now. So just shout out to the whole family, Angela, for keeping us rolling. I think a couple things to offer as you think about the response. And I want to just honor Black women in this moment for being aware and taking space that we know is ours to take. I will tell you this, there is a unity between the brothers and sisters tonight that I think is palpable, and I think it's changing the game. But when we talk about the ground game, we need to talk specifically about where people need to go. There are a lot of questions that are coming on the strategies. What are we supposed to do? This is boycott, yes. Activate, yes. But we're talking about now the legislative part of this work. This part of the advocacy on the ground is where voters can take a stance. If you have a child that has an illness, they're currently receiving CHIP and supported by Medicaid. If you have a mother or a father who is over 65, they're receiving any kind of treatments. They're receiving Medicare. Social Security is on the line. I also want us to understand that when we start talking about SNAP and benefits, these are not just benefiting Black people. There's a misnomer about these entitlements. And what I want people to understand is you have to now start calling your senators every single day. Be relentless. Be relentless in a way that allows them to know you will be voted out. And we've got to also use the phone tree method. Like, we got to go old school. You got to call your people to tell them to call their people to make these phone calls and then show up. Special elections in Florida 1st and 6th District, do not miss this. I don't care that it's a Republican district. I care that we got Black people that can vote. Here's the last thing I want to say, Angela, for this call tonight. As people are listening to what's happening, we got to understand that strategy will outweigh this foolishness. But strategy comes when we had to take a moment to breathe and activate. Now that we're activated, look at what we've done in 24 hours. We have called him. My father's 77 years old, and he told me he clicked on to watch tonight. We're hitting generation after generation. We got mothers, grandmothers, fathers, folks that have not been listening are now listening. So when you say turn the TV off, that doesn't mean turn off the activism. That means turn off this moment to be able to pull together what we're doing tonight. And it's working, y'all. We are going to win because our ancestors gave us the blueprint. This is a different man, but not a different plan. That's what I want you to hear.
Bishop, before you weigh in, we've been joined by Congresswoman Latifah Simon with Reverend Mark Thompson, and I want to go to her. You all heard her earlier today.
I'm ready to go when you are. All right.
Delivering her Working Families Party rebuttal or pre-buttal to the State of the Union. So, Mark, I'm coming to you now so we can hear from Congresswoman Simon.
Congresswoman Simon, what happened?
A lot happened tonight. I mean, I know I walked out. I walked out. I couldn't listen to these deep lies, this vitriol. But it also, sir, it felt like a Klan rally in there. We have to really understand what's happening right in front of us. We heard a president said clearly that he wants to take us back to a 1950s America. DEI is code for making sure that white men are leading everything. He has fired 4-star generals and has put unqualified white men to head our Pentagon. I can go on and on. We heard the lies when he started talking about Social Security. That's my grandmother. That's my aunt. Those are disabled children and the children of dead men. That is a social safety net that we all have paid into, and he is going to disrupt that department. He is going to disrupt and fracture our education system. Again, that's disabled children, that's K through 12, that's FAFSA. I couldn't listen to someone who's trying to tear apart the very structures that we have fought to build in the last 60 years in this country. I had to walk out. It's my job to be in this building, but I refuse to sit and kowtow to the neo-Klan. I'm not doing it.
Had you contemplated that? Did you have a feeling that might be what you would do?
I knew it, but my mother said, listen, my mother is from Malvern, Arkansas, and she told me this morning, Latifah, 800,000 people are expecting you to do your job and at least go. No one is supposed to kick you out of your house. So I wasn't kicked out today. I left mid-speech, very clear that we have work to do on the ground. And factually, block by block, if we vote block by block, we can take back the House, stop this madman, and win the presidency. It's that simple. These folks don't care about laws. They don't care about the judiciary. We're facing a constitutional crisis, but moreover, America is about to be sicker and poorer, and none of us are safe. You know, last thing I'll say on this, you know, a few weeks into me being here, I'm a new member of Congress. I was one of the few people outside of DOE saying, let us in and talk to these folks who want to take apart funding for HBCUs, want to take disabled services out of our K through 12 for our disabled, autistic children, intellectual and physical disabilities. We want to talk to them. Not only did they lock the doors, they sent Homeland Security. You couldn't see that behind the doors. There was a wall of Homeland Security officers with their hands on their guns. This is not the republic that we have fought for. These are dangerous times. This democracy is in hospice. Watch out and be close and be clear. We have to organize, and folks have to run and win office, because we are this close from being in a segregated apartheid America once again. We have literally shed blood, tears, intellectual beauty to have the small rights that we have. My mother wasn't born in a democracy. Yours wasn't either in this country. Literally, they couldn't vote. Their grandmothers couldn't vote. We're only 2.5 generations past those times. This thinly veiled democracy can be whipped away in a second. Look at El Salvador. The president of El Salvador ripped up the Constitution, slandered the legislative body and the judiciary body, and has now created a prison state. We got to work, y'all. I'm ready to work. I'm here not just to legislate, but to organize, but to show up for my people. We got to do better, and I'm going to do better. That's what I'm here to do, and I'm proud and honored to be one of 200 people in this nation's history, less than, that has worn this pin. So it's about action. We're going to be in committee, but we're going to be on the streets too.
You may have had a better vantage point than we did. What exactly happened with Al Green? What went down? They came in to escort him out, did they not?
So, you know, that brother is on the floor every single day fighting the good fight. I mean, listen to him, his floor speeches every day. What he did is he shook his cane and he challenged the leader of the Neo Clan, and that's what he was supposed to do. And the Speaker of the House had a Black man forcefully removed from the chamber by the sergeant in arms. He is a sitting member of Congress. And do you see the heckling and the hollering from the Republicans? Do they have decorum? No, this is a discriminatory body right now. This is a leadership that doesn't see Black men as equal to their white counterparts. It's really clear. If you look at the right side of the aisle, you see a monolithic governance structure. It's a majority white man structure. That's what they want. That's what they're pushing for. And you better feel the realness of that. They are going to make sure that every head of state, every department head looks like those men, looks like the men who come from a lineage who had our uncles swinging from trees. That is not hyperbole. That is the truth. Have to fight back.
We got fire up here in the Capitol, y'all.
Yes, you
I'm going
do.
to throw it back because I know y'all having dialogue and folks going to keep dropping it. Thank you, Congresswoman. God
Thank
bless
you, Mark. Keep them coming. This is
right.
amazing. I want to go to Bishop Leah Daughtry now. We talk about you. Can you please show everybody your shirt? Because your shirt is prophetic for this evening. Look at this.
Yes.
It says Black women vote. And what you're seeing is Black women leading, Black women walking out. Boots were made for walking. Black women cussing while they leaving. You got to feel proud, Bishop. I want to hear about this.
It is an amazing moment. This whole day has just been an amazing thing. And to see these sisters step up and tell us what was happening on the floor is just singular. And, you know, Black women are doing what Black women have always done in this country. And I'm not discounting the efforts of the brothers, but I was asked to talk about Black women, so that's what I'm going to do. And so I think what we're seeing is the continuation of the bloodline and of the lineage. And I just want to remind us that nobody is coming to save us. There's no army that's coming to save us. We're going to have to save ourselves. And that's just the bottom line. And if we're waiting for some cavalry, the cavalry ain't coming, y'all. We have to save ourselves. And so what I want to offer is a couple of things that people can do. Number one, reject. We have got to reject the lies. What happened today with this 24-hour marathon is one example. We got to reject it outright, refuse to accept what they dishing. We just not going to reject it. Do not engage in anticipatory compliance. Do not obey in advance. We got to reject it. Number two, we got to resist. Put on your boots, get you an Angela beret, do whatever you got to do in the places where you are to resist what is happening, to say, I will not go. Here is the line I will not cross. I am going to do what I can do, which is not to say that we all gonna do the same thing, but we ought to practice resistance in the spaces where they are. Number three, we gotta reclaim our heritage. We've let it go because we have had an easy time of things in some respects, or we've been duped into thinking we've had an easy time. We have got to reclaim the mantle of our ancestors, what the lineage was that got us to where we are today, where we have all these firsts, where we have people in the Senate, where we have people running businesses. It was not ever so. And so we got to reclaim the authority, reclaim the power, reclaim our legacy as Black people in this country who were built to survive. We were made for this storm. Everything that has happened to us in this country has prepared us for this moment, and we are up to the task. And the last R I'm going to give you is remember. You got to remember where we've come from. You got to remember the battles we've already won in the face of these co-presidents who will try every day to dismiss, demean, and diminish us. We have to remember that we're the stock we've come from. We've got to remember the people we've come from who were sturdy enough and strong enough to survive this middle passage, to get here and to live 400 years, to survive through the slave master's whip, through the lynching tree, through the segregated fountains, the back of the bus, and they kept on breathing and they kept on living in the hope that we would be able to stand, not just stand, but thrive. And we cannot let our legacy and that our ancestors left for us be diminished or demeaned. Ain't nobody coming to save us. We got to save ourselves.
That is absolutely right. SOS. And on that, speaking of somebody who's working on saving ourselves actively, he might have upset some party folks the other day because Jamie Harrison was front and center on a USA Today article. While white folks are talking about identity politics no more, there's no space for DEI. We're starting to see white folks in the Democratic Party align with Republicans sounding real Dixiecratish. And Jamie Harrison is like, Sweet Brown, ain't nobody got time for that. So Jamie, I want to know where you will tell the party to go from here. You see Black women and Black men thinking about Mr. Green leading with no direction in some ways, right? They're leading. They're saying, we're going to take this in our own hands. We are going to follow our own conscience. We know they are members of a caucus that's called the Conscience of the Congress. Jamie, how are you feeling about all this? And what do you tell the people at home who are like, finally, we see leadership?
Well, listen, Angela, first of all, thank you for your vision, you and Joy for helping to pull all this together. And, the bishop just preached a word. She just preached a word. And we're at this inflection point, particularly where parties are. And, I'm very fortunate to have been the third Black person to be chair of the Democratic Party. But I can tell you, the Democratic Party ain't perfect. And right now, what you hear is there's a battle for the soul of the party. You got some folks who love to say that Black folks represent the backbone, the heart and soul of the Democratic Party, but at the first indication of any anxiety, electoral anxiety, they want to abandon those folks. They talk about identity politics being the thing that is dragging the Democratic Party back. I mean, hell, the right-wing evangelists in the South is an identity group. Gun owners in the South are an identity group, but you don't see the Republicans running away from them. If African Americans represent the backbone of this party, then why are not all Democrats surrounding us and supporting us in this full frontal attack that is happening on the Black community right now? We all have to stand up. We all have a role to play, but we all have to stand up, and we have to demand that our party and party leaders, and I'm not saying this as a blanket, this is the DNC or whatever, but I'm saying the folks who are elected officials in this party, they all have to stand up and do their parts in terms of fighting for us. And that's what we saw in this last election. There are some people who just fundamentally do not feel as though they see Donald Trump and they don't agree with Donald Trump. Many of them hate Donald Trump. But the one thing that they respect about Donald Trump is that whatever he believes, he fights like hell for it. Democrats, we got to fight like hell for the things that we believe, that are our core values, and the people who are the backbone of this party, and that is Black folks. And so that's what we need at this point in time. And listen, we're all going to have different roles. We're all going to play different roles in this. You know, we saw it during the civil rights movement, right? There was the person who there were the people who marched. There were people who sat in at the lunch counters. There were the folks who got the dogs sitting on them. But they were the pastors who organized. They were also the people who paid the bail, right? They were the lawyers that went into the courtroom. We all have roles to play, and we got to figure out what our role is. I often wondered, Angela, when I was growing up in Orangeburg, what would I have done in the civil rights movement? Well, hell, we don't have to wonder anymore, because right now we are in the civil rights movement of our time. And the question is, what will each of us do in this movement in order to continue to move our people and our party and our families and this country forward? And so I'm happy to be a part of this. I'm going to do everything, because I do it. Yes, I do it for my people, but selfishly, you know who I do it for? My 2 Black sons who are upstairs right now sleeping. That is who I do this work for. That's why I will give every breath in my body to make sure that my sons don't grow up in a world like my grandparents grew up in, where the KKK marched through their town, where they had to drink out of colored water fountains, where they sat at the back of the bus. I will do every single thing in my power, will give every bit of my blood, every breath that I have, to make sure that my boys don't live in that world. Right now, we have a fascist in the White House. It is fear, it is fraud, it is fascism. And that is what defines the Republican Party. That is what defines Donald Trump. And we got to do everything that we can to push back and fight back against that.
Congressman Harrison, thank you so much. We want to go back now real quick to Mark Thompson. I understand he has Representative Maxwell Frost. One of the few good things to come out of Florida. Mark, also oranges. Shout out to oranges. Mark, real quick,
He can hear you. He can hear you. He can hear you.
Oh, okay, dope. So
how you doing?
Good to see you. Good to see you. Ain't seen you since the Daily Show when you popped in a while back, brother. What was the consensus before going into the chambers tonight amongst all the Democrats? Were y'all like, well, you gonna walk out? Well, I'm gonna walk out. Well, you walk out, I'll walk out. Or was it more organized? Or was everyone kind of feeling their own wave as the night went on?
There was definitely a lot of organizing going on. And here was the general consensus, is that number one, this isn't a normal address. This isn't a normal time where you stand up when the president walks in, where you have that kind of decorum. Because number one, he's never shown that to us or the American people or any people. He's never shown that to Black people. And so we walked in there, many of us, with a plan of what to do. If you've seen the videos, you've seen people with signs, holding up signs. I hold up a sign that said Musk steals. Elon Musk has been tweeting at me every other week. If I was the richest man on earth, I wouldn't be tweeting at 28-year-old Maxwell Frost, but I'd be doing other things. But I held up a Musk steal sign. But here's the thing. The reason why we decided to walk out is because, number one, we all worked really hard to get to Congress, and our constituents sent us there. And we knew we didn't want to stay the whole time. But I think there's power in occupying a space and choosing yourself when to get up and leave and walk out in the spirit of student protesters from the civil rights era. And that's why we decided to do it. Us and a group of mainly women from the Black Caucus who helped lead us into that action.
Yeah, you have some on, right?
Yeah. We couldn't. You can't just get up and walk out, right? We got up and we turned around and showed them our back to show this message.
No kings live here.
No kings live here.
Yeah.
And because he thinks he's a king. And what's going on right now is this administrative coup and billionaire takeover of our government, so they can take away Medicaid, Social Security, the things people have fought for and earned, to give billionaires a tax cut. And this is what the fascists do, is they try to have us say, well, I can't pay rent because of Black history. I can't afford my medicine because of that trans person. I can't afford this. I can't afford that because of the immigrant. They want us to look at each other instead of looking at them. But what I try to tell people is you are closer to being on the streets than you are to being Elon Musk. but they profit from us blaming each other, especially as Black people, amongst cultures and amongst the entire world. So I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to have done this action, but we know it doesn't stop here.
Yeah.
You know,
What's next? What
yeah,
what do you want to see your other members and this party do?
I believe, look, number one, when you don't have all the power you want, you use all the power you got. And we do have power because there's only a 2-seat majority in the House. And we have the ability to obstruct, to delay, to push back on this extreme agenda that most people don't believe in. And I think that's what we need to do, whether it's working at subpoena Elon Musk in every single oversight committee hearing, right? Or as many as we can. One day, a few of those, too many of those guys are going to be at lunch a little too far. And guess what? It'll move through. Believe it or not, that's how these things work sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? The other day, you have to challenge power too. The other day, I said grifter in chief. I think that's pretty tame.
Yeah, it's tame.
That's pretty tame. But they wouldn't even allow me to say that. So then you say, well, do I cede that ground or do I push it? Not to just be performative, but to make a point so people can see what's going on. Because we can't assume that everyone's paying attention.
To that point, Congressman Frost, about not ceding ground. Earlier this week, President Trump tweeted or Truth Social or whatever about the possibility when it comes to the youth of if you protest at a college campus, automatic expulsion, or if you protest illegally, which basically means we will draw the lines of the appropriate way to protest and then just say you violated and expel you. How serious do you think of a threat that is as we get into midterms, and how serious I believe protesting is going to play an important part of everything we're talking about over the next 4 years. How serious of a threat is that? Do you think that to be? And what advice would you have to young organizers who are going to be facing these types of potential legal ramifications for speaking out?
I think it's a very serious threat. I think that, number one, we campaigned for a while talking about Project 2025. Now it's happening.
Yeah.
We have no room to act surprised about the things they're doing because they wrote them down and we told people they would do it. And this attack on freedom of speech and students is something that we have to take seriously. So what would I tell students to do? Well, thinking to my organizing, number one, build community and grow your movement outside of students too. I remember during the Black Lives Matter uprising, the nights where I was tear gas mace and when I went to jail, it wasn't just people my age that had my back. And it wasn't just people my age that bailed me out of jail. It was a multi-generational movement of community that brought each other up. You know, our pro bono lawyers, where many of them were seniors, right, who came out to help us. So I encourage people, young people throughout history will always be leading, right? But it is important to make sure that you bring everybody into this movement because it's of us, by us. And I think that's how we protect us. So that's what I would tell students across the country. Take this seriously and also call on your elected officials to protect your freedom of speech, whether you're advocating against babies dying in Gaza, you're advocating to make sure that we have accountability in law enforcement or whatever it is, housing justice, whatever it is. We all deserve to say what we want to say. And that he wants to go after that. And here's the other thing I'll say. I think another reason he wants to go after it is because a lot of times in history, that energy does turn into votes against fascism. We had the largest youth voter turnout in the history of our country in a midterm in 2018. What else happened in 2018? Massive protests. What else happened in 2018? Marjorie Stoneman Douglas was shot up and students around the country said, enough is enough. In 2020, we had the highest youth voter turnout in the history of a general election. What happened in 2020? A Black man was lynched in broad daylight. People woke up and saw the video and said, enough is enough, took to the streets, then they took to the ballot box. So there's a danger in allowing social movements to emerge. And they want to try to scare people from even going out to the street in the first place. We have to take it very seriously.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Just one last question for Mark. Congressman, it's Angela Reid. Thank you for joining us. Quick question for you. When you consider what just happened and you see how Congressman Green was treated, do you think it was worth it to show up to the joint address tonight?
Yeah, obviously this is I don't want to talk bad about anyone for their individual decisions. Everyone's going to decide how they want to represent their constituents. I'll tell you where I'm coming from. Number one, I come from direct action and movement-based politics. And for me, it's all about space. How are you taking up space? When are you leaving a space and making sure you're doing that on your own accord? And of course, I worked hard to get here, but more importantly, my people sent me here, I believe, to take up space. But here's the thing that's more from a practical point of view. When you don't show up and sit in a seat, they put a Republican staffer in that seat. When you leave in the middle of the speech, there's no staffers available to sit in your seat. So all these are the things that we try to think about when we do the action. Did I not want to go? Of course I didn't want to go and listen to this BS lies from this neo-fascist racist. But I think there's power in stepping up, leaving in solidarity, of course, with Al Green, but also in solidarity with Black people and oppressed people across this nation. And so everyone has their own way of advocating. Some people boycotted it. Power to them, power to everyone. But this was the way I decided to do my action tonight with a great group of people.
Let me say this as he leaves, brother. We appreciate you. Tamika, this reminds me, being with this young 20-something-year-old brother in this Capitol reminds me of when we were with those other young 20-something-year-old brothers in the Capitol in Nashville. So this is deja vu. Love you, man. You keep that up, man. Proud of you, Doc.
Appreciate it.
All right.
God bless.
We'll be back, y'all. Go ahead. All right. Thank you.
I am so grateful for these cutaways to the Capitol. It's putting us right in the moment. This is really, really good reporting on behalf of Reverend Mark Thompson. I want to come to our sister as she wipes her face. Latasha was on the plane for 20 hours traveling to get here tonight. Latasha Brown is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Black Voters Matter got something to say about some of this too. So LB, I want to come to you because you all have always been about the work of the people and making sure that we get engaged. I want to know your reaction to what Maxwell was just sharing and what you think our next steps need to be.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. You know, I wanted to sing that song because this is the week marks the 60th anniversary of people who sang that song on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. It is also a song that our ancestors, when they did not have politics on their side, they didn't have resources, and have any of those things, they knew that there was something inside of them that, no, you're not going to dehumanize me. You're not going to take away the Constitution is not what gives me my right to live. God has given me my right to live. And so I say that in this space that I wanted to bring the ancestors and the history and the long history of the ancestors and our resistance in this space. That is a song of resilience, but it's also a song of resistance. And so in terms of going forward, there are 4 things. I'll be real quick because I think I'm turning into a pot of sand right now. I think there's 4 things, and I'm calling it, but I'm saying it in terms of this strategy around force, what we have to do. The first thing is around the fortify. In this moment, people, we have to fortify ourselves. What does that mean? We have to protect our assets and our information. You cannot take for granted that all of the things that you have that is based on the computer that is going to be there. You need to download your documents. You need to protect your resources. My family, who literally lived through the Depression, my grandparents that raised me, that were born in 1905 and 1910, they always kept money in the house. And part of what they said is the reason why they survived and our family survived during the Great Depression is because they didn't have their money in the banks. And so I know that sounds a little like an alarmist, but you need to have $2,000, a minimum of $2,000, if you can, if you have that you got set aside that at any moment you can touch it. Because if your bank card goes down, what you gonna do? Right. And so I think it's really important for us to really think differently. We have to think in terms of a self-determination model on how we're going to protect ourselves and our assets in this moment. When I say protect your information, you have to check your sources, y'all. Part of what is happening is there are people who are intentionally giving us misinformation, disinformation. Check your sources and where you're getting information from. Double, triple, check that, right? The next thing, the next F, as we're talking moving from fortify, we've got to focus. It's really important for us to think about what it is that we need in this moment. You know, we talked about early on the segment that we were on, that we've got to connect to Black farmers, that we've got to figure out where we can get our basic needs met. When we're talking about Social Security cuts, y'all need to understand that 58% of single Black adults over the age that are retirement age, 90% of their income comes from Social Security. 90% of their income comes from Social Security. It will be devastating to our communities in terms of how will they live, how will they feed themselves, how will they protect themselves. So it's important for us not just to talk about how we're going to stop or depend on them, but how we're going to have and use our institutions and structures to be able to fortify our people and focus our work so that we can protect our people in this moment. And so that means we have to think like Black, we have to think in terms of Black determination models and these self-determination models. All of those churches know you cannot have a church and you just open on Sunday. That has to become a community Black space. If you have institutions, you have business, that has to be, if it needs to be a meeting space, we've got to look in this moment of how do we create and think as nation builders in this moment. The third thing that I want to say is really about this fight, that the way that we fight, we're used to fighting when we have federal protections in place. We're used to fighting, particularly those of us that live in the racist South. We've actually fought in ways that we would actually use federal legislation, federal government to really be able to hold our states accountable. When that is not in place, how do we protect our people? Part of what we really got to be super, super focused is local control. We need to take over every single, and the wonderful thing about Black folks is we like to live together. So oftentimes we live in spaces that we have substantial numbers where we can take over school boards, that we can take over local elections. We have to focus on local control as much as possible. The mayor's races, the DA races, the local judgeships. The fourth and the final thing that I'll say really is we have to really, it will not be our politics to save us, y'all. It will be our humanity. But we can no longer just think about citizens of a bootleg nation that at will believes that we are at the whimsical nature of white racist folk. We have to think like founders of a new nation. We have to really think differently, that we're not just citizens, but that we're founders of something different. And what does that mean? We have to really be thinking about how will we protect and provide for our people in this moment, the basic needs of food, shelter, our resources, and literally one of the things I want us to do, don't spend no money. We cannot spend money in this moment. Why? Unless we're spending money with our communities and with things that we need. Don't take for granted that the eggs are $14 now. With the tariff, this trade war, it is going to have a substantial impact on us. So this is not the moment to go buy your Gucci bag. This is not the moment to go and spend on Amazon. This is not the moment. And we ain't trying to get them our money no doggone way anyway. So I think it's really important in this moment that we really save our money. And if you are going to spend some money, to invest some money, invest it in a Black organization that is leading this work. Someone that you know that is on the front line doing this work, whether it's $10. I see my brother Quinn James with Collective PAC. I see David, all these organizations. I see Siobhan that are doing amazing work. Write $10, $20. Pastor Mike that has been standing in this space, really making sure that our communities are protected. Those of us who have been marginalized. And so in that, I'll just say, in this moment, I'm gonna leave with a question. I always ask this question everywhere we go. Everywhere I speak, I ask the question. I ask people to close their eyes. And my question to them is, what would this nation look like without racism? What would the institutions look like? What would a day look like? And everywhere I go, 95%, most of the time, nobody has been asked that question. And if you don't think, we're not thinking about it. Certainly we don't think the other folks thinking about it. So we've got to change the paradigm in this moment and ask ourselves every single day, what would this nation look like without racism? Because racism is not my birthright. And what will it require for us to build in that? And so we've got to be moving on that, because I will tell you this, there's not been anything that has ever existed in the physical realm that wasn't first envisioned. Somebody had to envision the cell phone. Someone had to envision this. Somebody had to envision a racist concept around what it means around this white supremacy hierarchy. So those of us, we who believe in freedom, we also have to see ourselves as visionaries, and we've got to radically reimagine every single system in this country. Instead of us responding to the limited vision of others that don't want to see us in power, we've got to literally create the systems that every child can get fed. We've got to create systems that we can actually have healthcare for all of God's children. We've got to create the systems that's really about a wholesome education. So shift your thinking. It's not citizens of this nation, but go beyond that. We have to be founders of a new nation, founders of a nation that's yet unborn. And part of that is going to require us having the discipline to lean into that, to really use our imagination, our innovation, and self-determination to move forward. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Latasha. Thank
Let's
you so
raise the
much.
offering.
Let's,
We're gonna
yes, the
send the
doors of
plate
the church
around.
are almost open. We've been joined you all by another history maker. I so wanted to go to Jamal and Tamika and Angelo to talk about not spending money. Y'all hold that thought because we got a queen. They might not be no kings in that house, but we have a queen amongst us. She is the CBC chairwoman. She's one of my former bosses, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from Brooklyn. She gonna show
Yes.
Donald Trump what time it is. She's a real gangster. He don't want to mess with Congresswoman Clarke. She's here. Tell us how you're feeling, Miss Clarke. What is your impression of tonight, and where do we go from here? These are soldiers who are walking alongside of you, who have your back, who are surrounding you. We need to see you succeed, and so we want to hear from you tonight. How are you feeling, and what are you thinking?
Well, first of all, let me thank you, family, for coming together in this moment to provide our community with the undergirding, the understanding, the education and information we need for this movement in this moment. There's a MAGA fest, a MAGA rally going on in the House chambers in this moment. And, you know, I didn't expect anything less than a MAGA you know, parade and pomp and circumstance. And it is, you know, listen, I think he's essentially run out of greatest hits. So he's on repeat in this moment. The challenge around that, though, is that he's got folks around him that are ready and willing to implement the craziest of policies and all aimed at, of course, raising up white supremacy as the operating system of the United States of America. So when I heard Sister Latasha Brown just talk about very, I think, fundamental things that we need to be doing as a community, she's absolutely right. And I believe that certainly there are so many of us who have come together around sort of like mind in this moment, crystallizing where our communities need to go. We need to buy Black. And we've been talking this for years, for generations, quite frankly. We need to undergird each other with knowledge and information so that our folks are not constantly consuming the misinformation and the lies that permeate social media feeds. We need to be able to make sure that we are on the ground and the CBC is ready to get on the bus. We are not taking this moment for granted. We know that we need to be felt, we need to be touched on the ground. And so starting in the month of April, we will be on the move across this nation, educating, informing, mobilizing, encouraging, empowering our folks to see this moment as our sort of generational moment where we have to envision a nation, as Latasha Brown has said, where we center ourselves as the focus and the fabric of a democracy. What does that mean? You know, and what does it mean to operate in a space where we are valued and we value each other? This is just one of those moments, Sister Angela Rye, and you know, that's constantly reinforced for us, I believe, each and every day. When you have 1 in 5 federal workers coming from the Black community, when you have this constant drumbeat around the dismantling of diversity, equity, and inclusion, when you have all of these sort of factors, add to that the fact that the cost of living continues to escalate, compounded by these tariffs that Donald Trump is insisting on putting into place, our folks are certainly hurting economically and otherwise. And so we have to, I believe, make sure that our folks are handling business in an unconventional way, that we move forward with an encouraging our people to shop among our people for those basic goods and services. I think, again, Sister Brown said, this is not the time for luxury goods. It has never really been that time as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, listen, everyone is entitled to their own taste. However, there are many designers, Black designers, that can offer just as good, if not better, in terms of quality and what the goods and services they provide. And we need to raise them up. Those will be our corporate entities if we pour into them in the way that we've poured into so many of the others who have now turned their back on us. I'm also working with the CBC, and I'm going to close on this, Sister Angela, on a program, if you will, a communications program called What Side Are You On? This is not a moment where folks can be 1 foot in one camp and 1 foot in the other. Either you're with the Black community, with the development of who we are as a people, or you're not. There's no middle ground. And so that will be another part of what we will be embarking upon as members of the Congressional Black Caucus, 58 strong here in the House of Representatives and 4 strong in the U.S. Senate, the largest number of Black federal elected representatives in the history of this nation. This is all of our moment, and we're going to do everything that we must do on the legislative end to hold the line, but we're also going to be in these streets talking to our people, because in less than 18 months, there will be another election. And we've got to make sure that our folks are focused on the power of the franchise and what it means for their own liberation. With that, as we say here, Sister Angela Rye, I'm going to yield back the balance of my time.
Well, don't yield just yet, because I just want to get clarity for our audience. This was one quick question I have for you. You said there is a MAGA rally going on. Does that mean, Congresswoman, that you also left? Did the rest of the Congressional Black Caucus leave?
There are still members in the chambers. I am back in my office. I just felt like I knew what was next in the lineup of greatest hits. I didn't need to sit there to know, what words were going to be thrown at whom and what have you. He is shook. Let me just say this.
What was the tipping point for you? What was the moment where you like, okay, now
I just got tired. I just got tired. And he shook, quite frankly.
Yeah.
The fact that the Democrats have been sitting silently, raising signs. Where's my sign? Let me show you my sign. Raising signs occasionally during his speech. It has shook the man. He has been trying to find a way to get under the skin of Democrats, and we haven't been paying him any mind. So most of what you're seeing, he's directing directly to the MAGA crowd. And remember, the House of Representatives is essentially split half and half. So we're only separated by 2 seats. So it's a massive blow to his ego that he's not getting any applause, and he's standing up for the foolishness that he's trying to pull off in the chambers of the House right now.
Well, speaking of foolishness that took place in the chamber of the House, Mark Thompson, our colleague, is with Melanie Stansbury, who had her sign snatched by a Republican, and she's standing live with Mark Thompson right now. So we're going to go to Mark. Congresswoman, please stick around if you can. I know you're tired, so we don't want to keep you too late, but I would love for you to hear what she says happened.
And if you do have to go, we first have to acknowledge those bad new glasses she got on right there too.
Fly.
So that's
You know she's fly always.
So
You gotta talk about that scarf too.
Always an icon of fashion. Always. Every day, all day, every day.
So Congresswoman Stansbury, by the way, folks, is from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And last year was your first trip to Selma. You came to Selma last year. And she's coming back this weekend.
Yeah, I'll see you guys this weekend if anyone's going down.
Yeah. So what happened? So what did your sign say? What did it?
Yeah, well, so a lot of us on the floor plan to do our form of protest. We showed up for Donald Trump's town hall, just like Americans are showing up for town halls all over America. And just like Americans, we had our voices heard. And I had a sign as he walked in that said, "This is not normal." And as I was standing there behind Donald Trump, some young man from Texas snatched it out of my hand and threw it over the president's head. And I'm not gonna pretend like this is normal and that what's happening in America is just something that we should sit down and take. So, yeah.
So who was it? You know who?
It was a congressman from Texas, but I don't know his name. Golden something. Yeah.
And he just,
I mean, I was obviously in the frame. Marjorie Taylor Greene was facing me, and I think folks were trying to get it out of my hands. So they just pulled it out of my hands. Yeah.
Does that violate any rules or protocol? Can someone just snatch something out of your hand and throw it?
I listen, I'm not going to make a big deal about it. If they want to be children, if they want to have their MAGA party on the House floor, if they want to play games with us, they can do whatever they want. And I'm not going to lie. I grew up in Albuquerque. I was ready to fight, but that is not how I wanted to end my evening. So,
Bro, did you know they get down to Albuquerque like that? I didn't know
You know
Albuquerque
now.
did.
I did not know. Hey,
You said I was going to Albuquerque, so we need to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Congresswoman, I have a quick question, Congresswoman. Has it always been like this from the onset in January, or was there ever a brief window where y'all thought maybe we can get across the aisle and get some legislation done? Or is this just an escalation of where you all fully expect it to be at this point in the first 100 days?
I tried to come in with an open mind, but when let me be real. The inauguration was on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I did not come back to Washington, D.C. I chose to be home in my community celebrating the holiday with my community. But when I saw the images on television of Elon Musk and these billionaires and his cabinet yucking it up, I knew that it was not going to be normal. And then he went down to the stadium and started signing these executive orders. But I was like, okay, I'm still going to give it a minute. In fact, I'm the ranking member, the highest ranking Democrat on the DOJ subcommittee. And my chairwoman in that committee is Marjorie Taylor Greene. I even went and sat with her in her office for an hour, and we smiled and pretended like we could have some bipartisan conversations. And then we showed up for that very first committee hearing, and she did what she does. And I think, that has essentially evaporated. So we know what's up. We're going to be in the fight. We're the resistance for the next couple of years. And, as the Reverend said, 18 months is right around the corner. So we got to start organizing now.
Let me ask you this. Of all the terrible things he's done, he does $1 million a day. Which ones are most threatening and most impactful to your district in Albuquerque?
I mean, all of them, right? I mean, day one, he signs this executive order, essentially taking out all of the diversity, equity, and inclusion offices and staff. New Mexico is a minority majority state. We are a state that is Black, Brown, Indigenous, and that is an attack on the people of New Mexico. The executive order he signed 2 days ago, making English the only language of the United States. It is in our state constitution that Spanish is the other language of New Mexico. He's literally violating the state constitution of New Mexico because the border crossed us, by the way. So there is so much that he's doing every single day. He's firing thousands of New Mexicans. He's, these cuts that they're proposing in New Mexico, over 70% of our people are on Medicare and Medicaid. That will not only lead to literally probably the vast majority of New Mexicans losing healthcare, our entire healthcare system could collapse. Yeah. So we're not going to sit here and stand for it.
I think we need, and Congressman Clark, we kind of touched on this earlier, because I don't know if people really understand, Roy and Angela. When they say they're coming for Medicaid, we only think of it in one context. But Medicaid also undergirds those who don't have Medicaid and keeps hospitals open. So when you take away Medicaid, you jamming everybody.
Oh, yeah. This is what I'm saying is like, if you take away Medicaid, every hospital in the state of New Mexico is going to go bankrupt. So if you think it's hard to get in to see a specialist right now, after they got Medicaid, all of that's going away. This is not just going to affect low-income people, but it is going to affect low-income people. And as somebody who grew up in the system, somebody who would not be standing here today if it weren't for income supports and Medicaid and food stamps, it is, to me, not only immoral and unconscionable, but it's going to tear apart the fabric of our country.
So Albuquerque, you want to go get your sign back? Should we go get it back?
Let's go. We're gonna go down.
Y'all please stay out of jail. Y'all please stay out of jail. But thank you so much for joining us. I want to turn really quickly to we had some encouragement around not spending money. Our dear brother's head was plastered on a sign at the White House just a few weeks ago during a Black History Month reception. That is Reverend Jamal Bryant. Also here from Until Freedom are Angelo Pinto and Tamika Mallory. Y'all, we have to get into this because Latasha brought up Amazon. She brought up we don't need no designer goods, but we're also talking about Target. Jamal, you have exceeded 100,000 signers on this pledge around the Target fast. I want you to get into that. And Tamika and Angela, I want to hear from you as well on that.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. This is what Dr. King called the urgency of now. It is a critical moment, and we no longer have the question of community or chaos. It is absolute chaos, which is why we need community. I want to take a note really from across the border from our dear leader of Canada, who said, I don't want to, but I'm going to have to cut the power. Is that I supply, the Prime Minister said, power to 4 different states, and you're forcing my hand. I think that Black people don't realize how much power we wield with $2 trillion worth of spending power. And what has happened today at Target for them to say that their spending, their growth has gone down because of the economy and recession and tariffs, when the tariffs just started today. It is a reflection of what our power is. Black people, Angela, spend $12 million a day at Target. If we redirect that to our own ecosystem, what will that mean? The Montgomery bus boycott absolutely destabilized the South, not from speeches, but from redirected spending. And so I think that when it is that we saw the inauguration on January 20th and saw who was on the front row, it was not cabinet ministers, it was those who wield wealth, which suggests that's what this president responds to. The wealth of what it is that we have has got to be redirected until we take white supremacy down to their knees. They don't even understand that the next step after civil rights is civil rights. Dr. King was assassinated because he was mobilizing the Poor People's Campaign. And they understand when marginalized and oppressed poor people come together, a revolution has to start. A super bad sister from Harvard University said we don't even need 100% participation, we just need 3%. If 3% of the populace do what a lot of our brave brothers and sisters did today and walk out and lift their voice, I think America's going to come to a screeching halt. We've got enough power to do it just with the number of people who are on today for the 24 hours. And let's not undermine or belittle the strength of what happened with the blackout on Friday. America's about to have an asthma attack and a hyperventilator because we understand what our worth is. We know what our value is. And we've got to withhold our funds in order for the revolution to move forward. I'm excited about it. We start tomorrow on Ash Wednesday, this thrust of this Target fast, because we wanted to interlope the spiritual property of what's necessary. While it is that we're strategizing, we have historically also been a spiritual and a praying people. And so over the next 40 days, I want to urge all of us to galvanize in prayer and not lose our spiritual focus and force. Every day, 381 days, Black people in Montgomery, after not getting on the bus, went back to the church to pray. And let's be very clear, we are now going up against a demonic, diabolical spirit in America. It is not just a person, it is a spirit that is afoot. On the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. And so we've got to really go into prayer. But Frederick Douglass said it much better than me. He said, I got more prayers answered when I got off my knees. So we can't just pray. We've got to really go into fighting force. And so in the spirit of Hazel Dukes, let's fight even when it's uncalled for. So that's the necessary calling and the beating drum that we've got to answer to. I'm glad to be a part of it and excited about what we're going to do over the next 40 days.
Jamal, share the website one more time.
Yes, targetfast.org. And let me say to you that when it is that you register at Target Force, we have partnered with the Black Chamber of Commerce. We're going to send you out a digital directory of 300,000 Black businesses across the United States so you can redirect your dollars away from Target and Walmart. And we're going to send you a 40-day prayer journal so that we can pray our way through. A lot of our people, Angela, burn out. They tired, they weary, they worn, and they sad. But I think that we've got to find that synergy to find that second win and run to it.
Roy, I know you had something.
Well, no, let's let Tamika Mallory come in, and I'll let you all do. You see I'm staying out the way. I'll let
No. We gotta bring everybody in because we only got so much time. We
Okay.
under an hour left, y'all. We have.
Well, I got to be quiet. Black women, y'all got Black women, and then I have my question.
We have marathon through this thing, so we got a little less than an hour left. Tamika Mallory and Angelo Pinto on this same topic. You all have been actively engaged around the Target fast, and I would love to hear from you all your perspective. There's been a lot of folks saying, hey, why are we going to boycott something or fast from something when there are Black brands on the shelves? So about that, right? So I think that it's a good time to talk about tactics, how we stick together. I learned on my podcast recently, a Native Land Pod with Andrew Gillum, that only 10% of Black folks in Montgomery actually participated in boycotts. Never knew. And they want to burn the books. I'm still learning. They're trying to burn the books, Roy. So you guys tell us a little bit about why it's important for us to stay united in this fight with Reverend Jamal Bryant and Until Freedom.
Certainly. Thank you so much. And to everyone, I see family, new people, just so many different faces here. And it's been really inspirational and filling to be among this amazing group of individuals this evening. And I, just want to join Jamal, first of all, in saying Jamal Bryant.
Everybody.
Can you hear me?
Well, Tamika, hold on, because I
Hold
think
on a
somebody
second.
came in to
The
reclaim
queen
her
has
time.
walked. That's it.
That's
it.
what's going on. Congresswoman Waters.
Hello.
Hello. We heard you, so we thought that meant you were reclaiming your time. So you now have the floor. We want to know why you chose not to participate in the State of the Union tonight. Please tell us why.
Thank you so much, Angela. You know me very well. And you know that I was not about to put up with that bullshit that he was going to talk about tonight. You know that I think he is the most deplorable, dishonest, no good man that I've ever encountered in my life. He has insulted us. He's insulted the American people. He's a sexual predator. He's everything absolutely awful that you can describe in a human being. I've never met anything like him before. Angela, you've been out there in Los Angeles. I've worked with gang members, the Crips, the Bloods, everybody. I've never encountered anybody like Trump. Trump is a person without a conscience. He will lie at the drop of a hat, and he knows that you know that he's lying, but he continues to lie. What he did tonight was, first of all, he continued the lies about all of the Mexicans, all of the people coming from, the countries of, Mexico and Guatemala and everybody. What he talked about was, had you believed that they're all rapists and they're all murderers and they're all this and they're all that, continuing to pump up the lie that he has used as his number one issue to divide and to create hate and to have something that he could point to keep the American people believing that he had to protect them from. So it was pretty awful. And I really did not like the way he used the tragic incidents and the families that were there, who of course appreciated, what they think is their president caring about what happened, to the 12-year-old and to others who were victims. And we all feel sad and bad for them, but he misused them. He misused them. And what he did was he focused on them instead of focusing on the real issues that we're dealing with now and the harm that he's creating for workers by telling them get out of their office by 3 o'clock, by 5 o'clock. You know what that reminds me of? The sundown towns who would tell Black people they had to be out of town by 5 o'clock. before dark. You know, he's still the dishonorable human being that he's always been. It is so sad that we're going through this kind of change right before our very eyes as he and Elon Musk move into all of the agencies and departments of government, shutting them down, firing people, doing everything that they can to basically make sure that this country is ruled by the white billionaires that showed up with him at inauguration time. What he's saying to all of us, we're getting ready to run this country the way that we want to run it. We're getting rid of all these regulations that have protected people in the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. We're getting rid of HUD with all of the money that's going to housing and to the homeless and all of those people in urban areas that don't deserve it. All of those messages for me were continuing messages that he has put forth for a long time, long before this election. But it's not nice to say you so. When we first ran, I told him he should be impeached. When we got into it, we didn't do it right. We waited too long. We didn't use the right issues, etc. And unfortunately, we got him back. But let me hear from the other people that you have on the program tonight. Because I could talk about this thing all night.
We have one of your colleagues who has joined you, and she's someone who regularly says she's on your soldiers. He says, whatever Max says we're doing. That is Jasmine Crockett, who chose to go to the city union side, but she also chose to walk out. So she's right there, Jasmine.
Okay. Yes. Listen, for sure. Max is an OG, just like Reid. I follow their lead. I thank God for them. I really do, especially in this time. You know, as one of the younger members in the Congress, it is so important to have people that are always going to give us a sobering message about the moment that we're in. And as y'all just heard, she did not hold back. She gonna call that motherfucker what he is at all times. And so, and I'm here for it. And what y'all don't know is we both from St. Louis. Listen, we from the show me state, okay? This is what you get out of St. Louis. But I am so eternally grateful because as I was trying to figure out what I was gonna do, I was on the phone calling Max and trying to figure it out. And one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to make sure that there was space that was held for us. And if we did not show up, then what they were going to do is just put seat fillers in. And I wanted to make sure that the space that, you know, my ancestors bled and died for, that I occupied that space. But I also got the privilege to walk the hell out of it. And so that's exactly what we did so that he could have those empty seats sitting there and that our messages would be seen. Even if he decided he didn't want to hear us, he was going to fill us in our actions. And so I didn't just want to sit there and not clap, but instead I wanted to make sure that I stood up in defiance and I turned my back on him like he has turned his back on the American people, like he has turned his back on the Constitution, like he has turned his back on laws in this country. That is what I wanted to do. And I wanted the American people to know that while we may not have the numbers just yet, that doesn't mean that we don't have fight left in our bodies. And so I am going to fight him every step of the way until we get what we deserve, because it was my ancestors that built this motherfucker. Okay, I'm done now. I'm done because I didn't say all the words.
Jasmine, not only for what she just said, but she has been carrying the fight. She has been every day, every week, whether she's in committee, whether she's on the floor, whether she's in the streets, she has been telling what she has learned about him, his leadership. She's called him out. She's called out every dumbass that he's appointed to office while he's talking about getting rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion and hiring some of the dumbest people, some of the most incompetent people in all of the agencies of government that he can get. And then, yes, Elon Musk, because Elon Musk had the money to buy him. This was transactional. He put the money into his campaign, and Trump turned it over to him. We don't know everything that Elon Musk has done with his high technology ass. We don't know what he's being accused of by some, as it may relate to the election. But we're not going to give up in investigating and finding out whether or not Elon Musk and all the people that he's got hired in his business who are now working for him, we may be paying them through these dumb ass false contracts that he's gotten so much money from. This billionaire is a billionaire because he's exploited the United States of America, et cetera, et cetera. So thank you, Jasmine. You continue to be whom you are. You walk as you tried to get everybody else to do. Thank you.
And you did, didn't you? Tried to mobilize.
I tried, y'all. I tried, but I'm so proud of the members that were not afraid and decided that they would walk. Because if I didn't have at least a group, then I just wasn't going to attend. So I am so thankful. I know y'all had a chance to hear from Melanie Stansberry, who is my rider out of New Mexico. We had to make sure we at least could do something as a unified group. Because saying, oh, there's only one person or there's only two people. And I really wanted to show that there are more than just one person that is willing to engage in this fight. And if I could not get a group, then I just didn't want to do it. So I'm thankful for every soldier that decided to stand up and walk out.
Congresswoman Crockett and Waters, real quick, is the relationship between Democrats and Republicans between now and midterms, is it completely irreparable if we go on to war and just voting them out in 2026? Or is there any modicum of hope that we can come back from this between now and midterms? The energy that was in the room tonight, I mean.
Well, let me just say that we have a good caucus, a good Democratic caucus. And what we understand and appreciate is that people show their objections and their disagreements in different ways. And what we see building in this Democratic caucus is ways by which we're going to win this fight. We're going to win this fight. We're going to win this fight because I think what we're all understanding is this. We got to be in the streets. You know, it's not enough to be at home, you know, on the internet, you know, trying to convince people. They want us out there. They want to see us fighting. We are going to inspire people and help people to understand that the power lies when we all are sticking together, when we're working. I believe that if we keep going to the streets and we grow and grow and grow our protests, we're going to have a lot of influence on the courts, who still have a lot of decisions to make. These decisions now are temporary, but we got to get down to the decisions about whether or not what they're doing is in defiance of the Constitution, in defiance of the laws that have been signed by presidents, and what is the difference between an executive order and a law, and what is the difference between an executive order and what's in the Constitution of America. And I think we can help the courts move even stronger, but they got to see us. They got to understand that we're willing to fight for what we believe in. And you know what? Hell, I'm in this fight. I'm in this fight, and I do believe that there are a lot of other people in this fight. And when they see an 86-year-old woman on the street fighting in the way that I certainly know how, I hope it's going to inspire a lot of people to come on out and join us. Is that right, Angela?
That is absolutely right. And I'm going to tell you what, 86 where? 86 where?
I know, right? No, I was just gonna say that listen, this is business. I am going into their backyards, and anybody that I can take out, I'm gonna take them out. So I am gonna go. I'm gonna work
figuratively
while they
for the fans watching.
Yeah, I was about to explain it.
Okay.
So because right now they have decided that they don't want to show up and be held accountable to the people that put them into power. They have made a decision, the NRCC, that they're not going to do any more town halls in their districts. So if they're not going to show up and serve their people, then I'm going to show up and I'm going to make sure that they know the truth about why they are cowering and why they are going and bending the knee to the orange one instead of serving the people that made it possible for them to serve in this body. So no, It wasn't even a matter of tonight being the trigger. It was the fact that they decided that they were going to go out. And while this man has allowed Elon Musk to turn off the money for bills that were signed into law by Joe Biden or any other president and decide that they're going to abdicate their duties, that was when I decided that I was going to be coming for all their seats. Any seat that we can get, just know I'm coming for it. And when I say I'm coming for it, I'm not only showing up at their back door, but I'm also raising money. When I raise money, I give money. I spend money. I am in this to win this. Just like Max said, we gonna get this thing done by any means necessary. I'm gonna make sure money, organizing, showing up and doing the work that they don't want to do. We are absolutely going to do it. And yes, I'm going to do the stuff on social media too. I know Max said, we got to get off the computers, but I'm going to do the computer stuff too.
Wow.
Well,
Thank
this
you.
is
Thank you for
amazing,
standing up.
ladies. We so appreciate you
Good
coming
to see
on.
y'all.
We love you, Jasmine. We love you, Congresswoman. Queen Maxine.
Thank you.
We love you. So I want to just quickly, we were talking to some fighters. We were starting with Tamika and Angelo, and this is how MW's a gangster. Congresswoman Waters came on. She didn't even have to say reclaiming my time. She just started talking, and Tamika was like,
introducing that, just walked on.
Tamika was just like, hey. I was like,
nothing else to say. And I'm glad that they did that, because I was getting ready to try to come with my hoop, and I don't even have to do it tonight. They already handled it for me. So I'll just go back to some technical points on this issue around boycotts. Angela, you asked a very important question about what do we do with Black vendors that are on the stores in places like Target. And we talked about how, Pastor Bryant talked about the list that the Black Chamber of Commerce has with Black businesses that you can get your products from directly, as well as ensuring that the businesses in Target specifically, that we continue to support them. I want to bring into this conversation our sister Nina Turner, who was one of the first people to say that we needed to boycott Target for an extended period of time. Also, our sister Nakima Armstrong, who is there in Minneapolis, where the Target headquarters is located, holding local protests and meetings and organizing there on the ground. I just want to make sure that they are not missing in the context for how this boycott has come together. All I will say is that there's been a theme throughout this entire very powerful night, and it's been about us engaging in the streets and getting with our people. And I want folks to know that I didn't wake up to a call about a boycott from a group of leaders. It came from the ground. It came into the comment section on almost every post that I could find, where Target said that they were rolling back their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. People started saying, I will never go there again. I'm not shopping at Target. They said their feelings were hurt because Target to them was a place that they went, especially as Black women, as a safe space, and to see that they would cower to white supremacy and to this effort to take away what we believe is the gains of many of us, and of course people who came before us that fought so hard for us to have diversity, equity, and inclusion in these spaces. They felt connected to this, and we responded as organizers to help put some structure around it. Jamal came forward with the list that he's created with over 100,000 names. So this is a ground up effort. And the reason why I bring that up is because as we talk about all of what has been discussed tonight, important things, I want us to remember the grassroots, the people who are out there who are still fighting to keep gun violence tamed in their community, to deal with the issues of food deserts and poverty and injustice that is happening to them locally, police violence, people calling us from inside of prisons who are dealing with the backlash of what they are seeing happening across the country, where white supremacy is even sparking in those spaces behind the walls. Our people need us on so many different levels. And as Latasha said, let us remember to continue to give money and resources, whatever little bit we have. If we're holding it from Target, take half of it, put it under your mattress or wherever you want to save it, and take the other half and send it to a grassroots organizer or organization that is out there doing the consistent work. That while we plan on a mass scale, it is important that we deal with every every single issue we talked about here this evening. But we must not forget that there are people who are literally the thing between the trigger and the finger of a 13 or 14-year-old child who might kill somebody tomorrow because their grandmother lost their job. And when we talk about federal workers. So it's really, really serious and important to us that we continue to focus on those folks, that we listen to the voices of the people, and that the grassroots, that the people on the ground be really at the center of all of our organizing. We say it Until Freedom, that the people who are closest to the problem must be at the center of the solutions that we put forth in our society. And we want to make sure that everybody here, whoever you are, wherever you're organizing, let's ensure that we diversify. We want to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion outside in the world. Let us diversify every single space that we are working in to ensure that our people, all of our people, are there to inform us as we go forward and do our work. God bless y'all, and I love y'all.
And I'll just say, I think that we're boycotting because we know we have to make America think again, right? We need to make America think again. And the only way you make folks think is when you speak their language. So if their language is money, you got to speak money or act money. If the language is votes, you got to act votes. If the language is viewership, you have to act viewership. And those of us who fight, we know that you have to fight on every front. And as Pastor Bryant said, boycotts are really redirecting our spending. And the reason we redirect our spending is because we know we must redistribute the pain. Black folks can't be the only folks in this moment who are feeling pain. And when we begin to redistribute how we spend, we can redistribute some of that pain. And a big piece of that is really showing our outrage. We often say we're not outraged enough. But when we begin to change our actions, we show our outrage, and the outrage must be paired with action. It must be paired with consistent action. And for us, the message that we're really trying to send to folks is, you can vote with your pocketbook. You can vote with your bank account. You could vote with your viewership. You can vote with every vehicle. We have power, and Black folks have a lot of power. Don't listen to anyone who says you don't have power. But every place you have it, you must send a message to the gatekeepers that we're going to use the power so that Black folks can get the things we need and not be oppressed any longer. We also always say we need to build something different. I think this moment has showed us that we need something different more than ever. But not only do we need something different, Black folks got to be the ones that build the something different. And in this moment, I think the biggest lesson of all is we have to begin to build things that can't be rolled back. We cannot build more things that a new administration, a new whoever can come into position and roll it back. And I believe the only things they can't roll back is when we spend with ourselves. The only thing they can't roll back is when we vote for Black folks who carry our agenda. The only thing they can't roll back is when we organize like this to deliver messages we know our people need. So for me, the more we organize, the more we move together, the more we can build institutions, plans that they can't roll back. So that's what we do.
What have you all found, Angelo and Tamika? First off, thank you all for what you all have been putting together with regards to this. What have you all found over the years and years of activism that you've done is the most effective way of getting other Black folks on board? Like my mama wholesale is from Clarksdale, Mississippi. Pretty much every store there is a store connected to a bigger conglomerate that rolled back DE&I. So when you're trying to get them to understand, hey, here's something you can order from an independent vendor. There's TikToks now of people going in Target and basically putting the camera in front of Black and brown folks and like essentially using shame as a tactic. There's education as a tactic. What have you all found has been the best way to get more people to understand the value and everything that you all are trying to get done?
So I would say that we only go at it a few times and then we keep it moving and roll with the ones who want to get with it. And usually more people come along as time goes on. As long as we're disciplined, you begin to see other people saying, let me peek my head outside the door and see what's going on, and maybe I'll join that fight. And so I think that's, obviously very important that we stay consistent, which is not always easy, but it also helps when we are working with like-minded individuals and when we empower local voices to help lead those movements, and that they don't feel we're telling them what to do, but instead that they're a part of the process for how things come together. And so I think that a lot of people are feeling like they are a part of this movement because largely Black women who are everyday moms, everyday sisters living in their communities are the ones whose voices were first in this, in this fight. And so I think empowering them is so important, and I totally understand what you mean, because we do have the challenge of trying to get everybody, but that has never been the case. Angela, you talked about the percentage of people who actually participated in the bus boycott, and even all of those people didn't start at the beginning. It took time for them to see a couple of things. One, to be ashamed to keep trying to get on the bus when everybody else was making sure that they walked right on past it. And I think that's one of the tactics that we also use, is to let our folks know you look kind of crazy going in Target while the rest of us are standing outside.
And I would say Black people are really a people of rhythm, right? I think Angela trying to.
Yeah, she tried to.
I'm on mute. I'm on mute.
12 o'clock.
I love y'all. Let me tell you something. We have 26 minutes. I got some leaders in here. We got some of the most brilliant Black minds in the world on here. I got to do a rapid round because Holly told me one thing that we gonna do is be 24 hours. So we're not going over time. We got so much more we need to say and do. That means we got to have a part 2, 3, 4, 19. But I got to get these brilliant voices in. So I love y'all. We're going to keep talking about this on social. We're going to keep going. I'm going to go first to Bernice King, because you just brought up Montgomery bus boycotts. Tamika, I want to go to you, Dr. King, and then I want to make sure we get to your colleagues. If we can all try to keep our remarks to 1.5 minutes or less, we got to get everybody in. There's so many great voices. Kimberly Crenshaw joined us, Dr. Dyson, Maya, everybody wants you to run for mayor, Maya. I mean, come on, we got to go. We got to go. We got to go. Dr. Bernice King has joined us.
Yeah, thank you and good evening, everybody. I just wanted to say this. This is one of those Nehemiah moments. Nehemiah 4:19 says, the work is great and extensive, and we are widely separated on the wall. But when we hear the sound of the trumpet, we must rally together and our God will fight for us. So I want to thank you, Angela, you, Joy, and others for pulling this moment together in response to the in this hour. What does that mean? My father said, and I'm gonna do it real quick, in his book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos and Community. It's a part we overlook so often. He said, our nettlesome task is to discover how to organize our strength into compelling power so that the government cannot elude our demands, or I would say so that the power structures cannot elude our demands. I want to applaud everybody on here for everything you're doing to keep my father's legacy moving forward. And I just want to challenge us just real quick, because this is a key point here. Oftentimes we organize around passion, we organize around frustration, we organize around, need. But how often do we organize around strength? How do we pull our strengths together, look at what is needed to deal with what we're trying to do and organize those strengths? And so I want to, maybe it exists, I don't know, but we need a war room. That's the first thing. The second thing is I want to thank you for what you're doing and say, please, Angela, I texted you today. I said, continue this platform, because Trump has 2 platforms, True Social and X, that he's communicating consistently, rapid fire. We need something on a daily basis, because that misinformation has to be challenged consistently. Many people are misinformed and they are impressionable. And so we need this information. So much truth was shared today that people don't know. So thank you and kudos for bringing all of those different elements together. And then finally, which is a hard one, I'm Dr. King's daughter. I embrace fully nonviolence. I'm not perfect at it, but it is the best way to move forward. It is strategic. It gives us the spiritual discipline that we need and the soul force we need. In the I Have a Dream speech, and I'll close with this, he reminded everybody who was on the threshold of freedom and justice. And this is another part we miss in I Have a Dream in his words. He said, we must forever, and that's an underline and a bold and an italicized, We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. And so every day we got to prepare our minds, we got to prepare our spirits, because this is a marathon. And then finally, as we're doing what we're doing now in this season, in this moment, we have to figure out the strategies to change the numbers in Congress. There's a strategy to do that, not just registering to vote. But I love what Bernie did to go to the Trump voters. We got to think outside of the box to get those 3 numbers that are needed in the midterm. There's some elections coming up in April. It may be too late for that. But anyway, I just want to leave you with that. Thank you so much, Angela. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bernice King. I'm going to go next to Maya Wiley from the Lawyers Committee, and I'm sorry, not the Lawyers Committee, Leadership Conference on Civil Rights. And then Mark Morial, President of National Urban League, Kimberly Crenshaw, African American Policy Forum. Please, folks, let's get it in, but we want to make sure we're brief and we get everybody else in. Maya, I'm going to start with you.
Well, first of all, let me just say, I'm going to be very brief, just how grateful I am for all the wisdom, all of the action, all of the activism that we've already heard. I am just going to say one thing that we have not talked about. We are talking about a madman who has promised to weaponize the military against our communities. And one of the ways he's going to do it is in addition to protests, because that was one, and we heard that from Congressman Frost. But the other is by vilifying immigrants and trying to come for our constitutional rights on birthright citizenship, which we as Black people in the civil rights movement won, because the beginning of the first civil rights movement was the abolition of slavery. But the reason I'm raising this is because we've already had a man, Peter Sean Brown, the Black man in Florida, who was only 3 days away from being deported, and he was born in Philadelphia. You know, and in our history, we have a lot of Black people who were put into detention because they were believed not to be citizens, even though they were. So the only reason I'm saying this is that weaponizing, just like they're doing with diversity, equity, inclusion, and say all the 3 words, because they don't say it because people actually like diversity. People actually think it's a good thing. They like inclusion, but they're also using it to come for immigrants. We have African immigrants, we have immigrants, we have Afro-Latino immigrants. But what the Lake and Riley law did, which is what they were celebrating, what Democrats also clapped for and voted for, is they are given permission to racial profiling. And that means us, whether or not we are citizens, whether or not we were born here. So I just want to remind us of that, as well as everything everyone else has said, because we won these rights. These are civil rights. These are about Black people in our communities, both Black people who are immigrants, but also the way they catch us up in their system. And by the way, they will use the military in our communities to look for us. So I only say that, not to say we don't have anything we can do about it, but that we can't stay silent on that one either, because it is the silence that they're relying on and telling us that we shouldn't trust our own. Thank you.
And then intimidate and dare the media to report it as fact, and then call the facts lies. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to add more sadness on top of your sadness, but yes.
Thank you.
Mark and Kimberly.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Angela. First of all, I want to thank you, Angela, and the entire team for hosting this tonight. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to participate. To just add this, what we are facing is an attack and a war on civil rights, a war on the last 70 years since the Brown decision. Every single action being undertaken seeks to repeal the progress we've made and to erase our contributions to this nation. If this is not a wake-up call for this generation that had the opportunity to walk through doors, stand on shoulders, avail themselves of opportunities because of the hard sweat and struggles of others, our parents and grandparents and ancestors, then I don't know what will wake us up. So I'm grateful and excited to see the activism, selective purchasing. We're bringing litigation. We brought litigation with the help of the Legal Defense Fund against 3 Trump executive orders. There's been litigation brought against the freeze and on behalf of the employees, the federal employees. We have to stand together. And the most important thing is for everybody to do something. Get off the couch, get out of your comfort zone, and recognize that this is a threat to the last 70 years. And we're defining the future for our children and our children's children. Project 2025 is real. We are seeing it being executed. We're seeing it being implemented. And they want to bend this country to an autocracy and reinstate white supremacy as the operating and governing principle. So I just think that tonight is just another step. Angela, we got to continue these conversations. We got to continue to energize and excite people. So I'm grateful to be a part, and we will continue to play our role to the best of our abilities. I'll see everyone who'll be in Selma on Saturday and Sunday as we celebrate and note and mark the milestone of Bloody Sunday 60 years ago.
You're up. Yes.
Angela, I cannot tell you how thrilled I am that this is happening. And also how impressed I am. I was watching you last night around this time and you are still looking good. So thank you and many, many props to you. Listen, here's the main thing I want to remind us of. We have been here before. We know that this is the same thing that happened to us after Reconstruction. We know what violence did to our aspirations. We know what happened when individuals and organizations, not just those who were coming after us, but the party of Lincoln finally decided that they didn't want to have the burden of us on their chart anymore. And so what really worries me about this moment is the thing that we're not saying as much as we should, which is in this terror moment, in this moment when they're removing us from everywhere, it's not just MAGA that we have to struggle with. The call is coming from in the house. When we can see people being removed, Black people who are accomplished, who are at the top of their field, from Joy to 4-star general, they are coming after us as the vehicle for this agenda. We've got to be able to call it out. When we know that our fellow Democrats, our fellow progressives, our fellow leftists, our fellow liberals are more afraid of being called woke than being on the wrong side of history, the fight is here. So this has been a fight that's been going on for several years. Many of us have been saying, Mark Morial, one of them, Siobhan, Arline, another one, that this attack on our freedom, this attack on our civil rights history, this attack on our ability to know and understand what our history is telling us is an attack on the entire infrastructure of the last 60 years. They've told us from the beginning, they're coming after public education, they're coming after public values, and they're coming after the government. And that's exactly what they've done. So if there's any moment of doubt, if there's any question about why we have to fight now, just remember, Woodrow Wilson did exactly what Trump is doing right now. He cleared us out from the government. He eliminated the protections that we had. He was backed up with the Supreme Court, who was willing to sign on to it. And lastly, but not least, our friends allowed them to do it. So our fight has to be multi-level. We have to fight MAGA, yeah, but we got to fight those who are willing to say, maybe we're going to compromise on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Maybe we're going to compromise on Black history. Maybe we don't need to be worried about all of these ideas and these frameworks. Maybe we can negotiate a settlement. Whenever a settlement is negotiated, trust, we're the ones that are going to be thrown under the bus. So I couldn't be happier to be part of this. I couldn't be more enthusiastic and excited about the fact that we are on the march. The Saints are marching in, and I'm glad to be in that number. And let's remember, I'm going to end by quoting Sherilyn Ifill, who said, leave no power on the table. What did she mean by that? She meant to say, yeah, we're fighting at the federal level, but the real power is at the local level. It's at those school boards. It's at the city council. It's at all the places where these decisions about what actually shapes our lives are made. So we need to step up, step in, be there, recognize that this fight is not the fight for the next 4 years. It's a fight for a century, and we need to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You guys, we have 12 people and 11 minutes left. Stephanie Young, I'm coming to you. We're going to be quick. Let's be mindful. Otherwise, we can't thank all the team that pulled this off. So please be mindful. Stephanie Young, you have the floor. Talk to us about voting. We're going to go to these PACs and get it done.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for all the work that you're doing continuously to make today, tonight, and even tomorrow, and all the things that we'll do together happen. I think it's really important to remember because I think a lot of folks have been discouraged and depressed, obviously, with what's happened, but we had 89 million people in this country actually not vote. 244 million people voted in this election. This is not the highest turnout. I think Maxwell Frost said it. 2020 actually had the highest voter turnout. And when you think about the multi-level fight that Ms. Crenshaw just laid out, it's incredibly important that we're attacking it from all facets. So from civic engagement to civil disobedience, obedience to clear, concise, authentic, and real, consistent messaging. And we know, wearing my old hat, working in the voting rights space, that peer-to-peer organizing is really the #1 converter to get as many people registered and ready to vote. And voter education doesn't stop there. That also goes to ensuring that people understand not only, what does my vote get me, but also all the different levers that voting actually pulls, from the school boards all the way up into, obviously, the president of the United States. So I think that when we're having these conversations, we can't leave out the deep organizing that actually has to happen, because our people aren't fully out on the field when it comes to making their voices heard. And then also fighting the disinformation that comes from, all different sides. But from the peer-to-peer organizing, the voter education registration, that can't just happen 12 months or 6 months before the election, but actually needs to start right now. It takes 7 touches to get someone actually registered to vote and engaged. And we're not talking about, 7 pings just on the internet. We're talking about phone calls. We're talking about peer-to-peer. We're talking about a multi-lever and layered process. So as we continue these conversations in community on how we all can play our part, I want to make sure, and I know that from Derek and NAACP and Collective PAC, and obviously Latasha and all the work they're doing with Black Voters Matter, we have a lot of work to do in the voting space. And I know that voting hasn't always been sexy, but it's incredibly and very critical to ensuring that in the midterms that we make our voices heard, but also obviously 4 years from now. So I'm looking forward to doing the work with each and every one.
Thank you, Steph. You guys, we have a very important guest who's just joined us, and I think that Quentin and Mike McBride might be okay with me yielding their time to her. Their work helped to solidify this history-making Senator Lisa Blunt Rochester out of the great state of Delaware, and our good friend. And I'm just so happy you're here. So I want to yield a couple minutes to you. We're trying to meet our deadline, Holly. We might be over, but it's a good reason why.
I'm gonna be very, very brief. I just left the floor from a very bizarre thing to witness and behold. And I will just tell you that, Angela, to you and everyone on here, Miss Reid, and I'm calling you Miss Reid because just thank you for the service that you have done for this country. To all of you on this line, I want to say I needed to get on here to be refueled. And I think in this moment, it is going to require each of us to recognize, what can I do in this moment? The fact that Angela also Brooks and I were sitting in the same row as Jim Clyburn, and in front of us, Cory Booker and all of us, we said, no, this is our house. We're not leaving. You're going to look me right in the eye and say these things.
And we are going to then take our power and act. And so I just want to thank to the collective, to everybody who helped us get to this place. Now the real work begins. And as was said, they're using words like scrub, to scrub our history, to scrub us out of jobs. Even veterans who are 1/3 of the workforce, they don't care. And so I'm on fire in this moment. I appreciate the help and support and the wisdom. Like Sherlyn Eiffel is going to be meeting with me and talking to me and talking about some of the levers. I'm once an urban leaguer, always an urban leaguer. Kimberly Crenshaw, Jamie, I could literally go through all of you here on this call and say thank you, thank you, thank you. But remember, in this moment, I said on the Senate floor, for us, we know that trouble don't last always. For us, we know that it doesn't last always when we walk together, children, and not get weary, and that ultimately joy will come in the morning, but we got to do the work right now while it is night. And so I am just grateful for your presence. I'm grateful for your work. I'm looking forward. Look, I'm starting to see other people that I needed to call out, but I'm so grateful. And on behalf of those of us who are in, Leah Daltrey, I don't want to get started, but I just want to say thank you for your work, and we are ready to get to work together. Thank you, Angela, so much for this lifts my spirit as we go into tomorrow. That's all I
Well,
want.
stick around till midnight, because that's when the hour is darkest, but we know morning is coming. Quentin and Mike real fast, and then I'm gonna get to these ladies that we did get to.
Everybody be encouraged. While this is, is the worst of times, it's also the best of times. We've never had as many Black leaders in public office as we do right now. And that's because of the work of everybody on this line, everyone watching. We've put the work in. We came up short last November, but we're going to put the work in this year and next year. We have a Black candidate running for governor of New Jersey right now, in Ras Baraka. Tonight was election night in St. Louis. Mayor Tashara Jones running for re-election. And so while we are thinking about what's happening in DC, a lot of power is being built on the ground. And so thank you all for what you have done. We're going to continue doing it throughout this next year.
Thank you, Quinn from Collective PAC. Pastor Mike McBride from Black Church PAC.
Yes, Black Church PAC and Live Free. Let me just say, this whole day, these last 24 hours, has been a demonstration of what happens when we organize together. A disorganized truth will find it difficult to defeat organized lies, what I was taught. And so my hope is that we organize ourselves on the ground. Brother Quinn just said it powerfully, all politics is local. As we've manifested and flexed online, may we do that on the ground. May we attend to the differences among us on the ground by class, gender, sexuality, all things that try to divide us. Organize ourselves into the power we need to keep this demonstration of our unity together. I think Elijah Muhammad said, our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. May we use our unity to defeat this wickedness around us. God bless everybody.
Thank you, Pastor Mike. Since we're in the Bible, I'm going to go to red lip theology. I missed my red lip today, but Candace Marie Benbow is here. We need to hear from you. I personally reached out to you, sis. My best friend was like, you know who you need to have. So you're here. Please, we want to hear from you.
I just want to say that the one thing I want to challenge us all to do, creators create, writers write. If this is a moment of disinformation, of misinformation, they are burning our books. What will the record bear 50 years from now? So not only do we need to document this time and tell the story, we also need to do the work that our souls need to have and our souls must have. And as we're talking about self-care, as we're talking about lifting each other up, that's going to come from the art that we create. That's going to come from the love that we emit and give each other. And I am heartened by tonight, sis. I'm so proud of you. I was up last night when you started, and I'm with you here at the end, and I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so very much. I'm going to go to Hope Giselle and then to Dr. Raquel Martin. Did I lose Hope Giselle? I might have lost her. Okay, Dr. Raquel Martin, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So I just wanted to state that although we acknowledge the fact that activism is inspired and sustained by love and community, when it is constantly being challenged by injustice, the emotional toll is going to lead to burnout and numbness and detachment. So I am working with clients. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I really just want y'all to be mindful of signs of resistance fatigue. That's the exhaustion that comes from sustained activism, advocacy, fighting for justice. If you're feeling numb or detached or indifferent to issues that you used to deeply care about, you're having low frustration tolerance, you're feeling guilty about resting. Some things that I've been talking to my clients that are activists about are just sharing the load. Activism was never meant to be solo. So creating a care rotation with fellow activists where you're alternating who's organizing the meetings, who's managing social media, who is driving the people to the everywhere, hosting the meetings. You're building restorative community, creating consistent structured check-ins. I told one of my clients to make a buddy system with someone where activists are responsible for checking in with each other. Directing small acts of solidarity, they make a big impact. Mutual aid isn't just about organizing huge efforts. It's about every single day support, checking in, rides, childcare. When it comes down to it, as a medical professional, I'm also a liberation psychologist, and healing isn't just about the individual. It's about dismantling the systems that make us sick in the first place. And all this extra stress leads to increased susceptibility to illness and autoimmune disorders. So to all the individuals watching this, the medical and health professionals, our job isn't just to help people survive oppression, it's to challenge it. So if we're not working towards justice, we're also maintaining the harm. So doctors can contribute to this by providing equitable care, anti-racist care, addressing social determinants of health, because therapy does not have a monopoly on healing. I am a psychologist, but it doesn't have a monopoly on healing. So whether it's your path to healing is therapy or creating or activism, it's going to be paved with community, and we're going to need that more than ever. So also check in with yourselves, everyone on this call. If you notice the same people organizing every single one of these talks, that's a problem, because the whole aspect of longevity isn't just about skill or outworking everyone. It's about taking care of yourself. So many times people talk about pouring from an empty cup. Most of y'all don't even have cups. Y'all have like spaghetti strainers. Y'all got calendars because everything's poking holes in it. So I would encourage you to think about what's also poking holes in your cup and make sure the same people are not organizing this entire thing, because it's going to take a while. But when you're running on fumes, you can't sustain anything. And this is going to take a lot of sustainability.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go to Dr. Dyson because he was not on a panel today, and we're going to get to some of the other folks for brief thank yous or something before we drop off. But Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, mentor, you have the floor.
Love you. Love what you do. Love what you stand for. So proud of you. Very briefly, let's make sure diversity is diverse, right? Don't be suckered by these people trying to make you hate trans people or gay people or lesbian people or poor people or and the like. Let's understand that they are all, those of us who are Black, understand the liberation movement for what it does. Number two, the truth is, be deadly serious about what you are committed to, but don't take yourself too seriously at all. And in that way, like Elijah in the Bible, I only am left. No, you ain't the 7,000 others. So stop and focus on the job at hand. Thirdly, my pastor used to say, we've already come through what we've come to, which means we've been through this stuff before. Let's remember those lessons. And finally, Howard Thurman said, you don't reduce your dreams to the event you confront now. You have a choice. You can be a prisoner of hope, or you can be a prisoner of the event. We choose to be a prisoner of the event. And I'll end by saying, I know Bishop Daughtry said that the cavalry ain't coming. That's true, but Calvary is here. And on that old rugged cross, there's a lot that's been penned there, and that has sustained us as a people. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you, Dr. Dyson. We are going to go to Dr. David Johns, the journalist extraordinaire, Ed Gordon, Monique, and Alfonso, and we are wrapping, y'all. Quickly.
I love y'all. There's something special about being in the care of Black women who love Black people. So thank you to you, Lolo, Jill, the whole team. I think my only contribution is to remind us of what Fannie Lou Hamer said, which is that none of us are free unless and until all of us are free. So this is the moment where I'm gonna step on some of y'all's toes and say gay, trans, and gender expansive. If we don't lock arms and aims and hearts with every member of our beautifully diverse community, we will never get free. So let's do the work of getting liberated together. Let's do the work of supporting each other and centering joy, and let's continue to resist. Let's not capitulate. Let's not give them anything. Let's live in the spirit of Nipsey Hussle, who reminds us that it's all a marathon. All we got to do is keep going. I love y'all sincerely.
Thanks, David. And on that note, Hope Giselle dropped. I'm sure she was just tired, but please look up the work of Hope Giselle. David, can you share her Instagram? Handle.
Yep. At Hope Giselle, she also is a leader with NBJC, so you can check us out at www.nbjc. Download our Black Facts data. It aligns with the Black Census Project, and you can also find us at NBJC on the move. But shout out to Hope Giselle, who is doing tremendous work. Find her, support her, find ways to love on members of our community, again, who are trans and gender expansive. They are at the tip of the spear of these neo-fascists who are legislating genocide.
Thank you so much, DJ. Okay, Monique and Alfonso, come on. And Ed Gordon.
You want Monique to go first?
She on mute, so go ahead. You go ahead.
Angela, thank you. Thank you to Joy. Thank you to Rev Mark, Lolo, Holly, all of our partners who helped work on this. What I want to leave us with is make sure we remember is that there's a direct connection between our wallets, our pocketbooks, and our dignity. All too often, we treat economic justice and social justice like they're separate conversations. And the truth is they're completely connected. Firing people from their jobs is directly connected to whether they can put food on the table and whether they can be treated with dignity at work. And then striking down diversity, equity, and inclusion affects whether public and private sectors will be held accountable for addressing the disparities that show that Black businesses are being denied opportunities. Just so we're clear, 20% of new businesses go out of business within the first 12 to 18 months. But when you're talking about Black businesses, that's 80%. 80% of Black businesses go out of business during that same time period. And this is due to systemic barriers that exist in the marketplace. So remember, as we go through this fight and this struggle, that when you hear about the actions being taken by the new administration, understand that they have an impact on your dignity and they have an impact on your wallet. That is the goal. They are connected. And at the Global Black Economic Forum, we're going to continue doing this work, fighting for economic justice and fighting for economic freedom, and working with all of you in doing so. Angela, thank you again.
Thank you, Alfonso. Monique, my sister.
I love you, girl. Real, true, indeed. In the bunker, anytime. Thank you for this. Thank you for everybody who worked. One scripture, faith without works is dead. And that means it's like having none at all. It's like non-existent faith. What we've done for the past 24 hours is a demonstration of the height of our faith through our work. And I am so thankful for that because my faith is real high, my faith in God and my faith in our people. My belief that we can take this and go someplace with it. We ain't got to agree on everything. Let's do one thing and take some steps with the one thing. And I'm just here to say, the 100 of y'all, 200 of y'all, whoever did this for the past 24 hours, I'll take at least 10 steps with y'all any day, anytime. Blessings.
Thanks, Mo. The legendary Ed Gordon is still with us. And Ed, I just want to hear from you. That's all. I just want to hear from you before we
I just want to say this very quickly. And Joy started us off with Dr. King's words. And I had the honor of interviewing Nelson Mandela on 3 occasions and spent some time with him. And he suggested that in times like this, we have to find truth, and that's truth within ourselves and with those who surround us. And so I'd like to encourage all of us to respectfully hold ourselves accountable, our leadership accountable, our elected officials accountable, and the people in the streets accountable. This is a historic moment for us. I don't know that we have the gravity of it yet, but we owe ourselves and our ancestors that accountability.
That is indeed the truth. Well, Joy was the host that brought us in yesterday. So Joy, I want to come to you. Roy, I want to come to you. And then I just want to offer some thank yous.
I just want to say that very briefly, because I know we're trying to get out of here. Y'all, I'm telling you, the contrast in my text messages between the people who watched the joint address and the people who stuck with us, the people who did the 24 hours, however long they spent with it, it could not be sharper. I think what we have learned tonight is that our people don't need to be directed to consume what the mainstream tells them to, or to know what the mainstream tells them to know. They just need us. All we need is each other. Y'all, this is enough. All we need is each other. The feeling of empowerment, joy, freedom that we felt in these last 24 hours and in this town hall, that's it. we got the answer. That's where we go from here, right here.
Thank
To
you
my
to
illustrious co-host that said yes at 1 a.m, Roy Wood Jr. He
Don't
did.
even that. She texted me at 1 a.m. Are you doing the thing? And the way that you all organized this, I have to praise you all and tell you all thank you. I mean, Angela knows it's 40 pots on the stove. Joy, you know it's 40 pots on the stove. So I'm not always able to be part of the construction of any of this, but if you tell me where to be, I'll be there. Just tell
By
me
the
where-
way, I stirred no pots. I showed up with everyone else. I have to say that the people who organized this, I literally am so in awe of everyone who participated in making this happen. Ashley, Holly, Angie, all of y'all. I rode along. I told y'all I was in that little car next to the bike. I was in that little, the little buggy next to the
Yeah,
big
little
bike.
sidecar.
I was in the
Motorcycle.
sidecar, and I was just proud to be there. I am in absolute awe. This was amazing.
Here's
Amazing.
what threw me off, Joy. Angela said, I saw the flyer. I was like, that'd be good.
The flyer was so fly.
But I just never looked at the date. And then Angela's like, well, you want to do the thing that's on the flyer? I'm like, yeah, I'll do the thing that's on the flyer. I thought it was next week. She go, hey, tomorrow, here's the window, 9 p.m. All right, I'll be there.
He did.
I'll be there. So to be able to turn this around and to be able to, just a quick shout out to Mark Thompson as well on the ground.
Yes, Mark Thompson. Can I just tell y'all, as a
Picking them
cable
off
person,
as they walked out the room.
look,
Literally.
the cable correspondent moment. This
There
is
he
the thing. Mark Thompson, correspondent in the field, doing the thing. And we've seen him do it before. He used to do it sometimes for me on my cable show. When I tell you that brother made this thing one of the most entertaining, informative, live. It was in the moment. This was some of the best non-television television that I'm a veteran. I've been at this a long time. Y'all, I'm an oldie goldie. Baby, this was some of the best non-television television I've ever seen. I was inspired, but I was also quite entertained.
I gotta tell you, oh, there he is. Mark,
There
what
he
you got?
is,
You got
Mark.
now, Mark, you can't have preacher words, but you got some parting words, because I'm gonna get these thank yous into all these people.
So this is an incredible group I've had the honor to work with. I have been up since 6 a.m. Monday morning, not just 24 hours. So I'm gonna go try to find a few minutes to sleep before I go to Selma and not sleep at all. God bless you all. Really great to work with Ashley and Holly and Lolo and all of you two, Angela and Joy. Vince and I were just talking, I think we're going to do something. We're going to do something here. I think we've proven what we can do. So can't wait, y'all. Can't wait.
Can't wait. And before I say anything, I know we're over time. If y'all got to drop, you just got to drop. But I am going to yield this time to this sister that has been the glue. Y'all don't see her often, but when she shows up with joy. She shows up with patience. She is the chair of the Elemental P community. She knows what that is. I meant to say committee, but it's late and I'm tired. The Elemental P committee. That is Holly Holiday. Holly Holiday, outstanding. She's gonna shout out her podcast right now because she got in trouble with her podcast co-host. Shout out the podcast, Holly. You know you are a gangster. Like, I don't know. Elon Musk, I keep saying Elon Musk got to run for his money because she got integrity and a moral basis and a moral compass. Holly Holiday, you got to say something before we leave.
I'm gonna do y'all like Russell Simmons used to do on Def Comedy Jam, because it is the most appropriate thing to say. Thank you and good night.
Before you hang up on us, Holly, I got some other people to thank since you're gonna be rude and not oblige me. Indulge me rather. See, I'm telling y'all it's late. Ashley Allison.
Yes.
Oh my God. Ashley Allison, Mark Thompson, Holly Holiday, the other Holly Weeks, who works with Holly Holiday. Lolo. Oh my God. Lolo is Charles Barkley of Native Land Pod. Lauren Lolo Smith, Chloe and Avani on graphics, Bree, Rachel, and Steph Young, who's sitting right here. They are press gurus. The press around this has been fantastic. I want to shout out Essence Studios. Let me tell you about Alfonso David. See, y'all see the president of Global Black Economic Forum, but that is a political staffer at heart. Jamie Harrison, you know what I'm talking about. He another thought partner. So y'all need to stay close. I want to thank all of the producers, everyone who hosted a segment, every single panelist, Latifah Simon on a response, Latifah Simon on a walkout, Maxine Waters telling you she's 86, working on 36 because she got more energy than most of us. Every single person who tuned in today, every prayer. Bishop Daughtry, who let me call her on the side. I talk about my side preachers. Roy tried to jag me. I'm not gonna let you drag me. And Joteka Edie, the infrastructure around Win with Black Women, all the folks who are, talkers. That's all I'm gonna say. Thank God for y'all. Vince Evans, who was double timing as a CBC staffer and staffing us. Lisa Blunt Rochester, because your prayers, I know that you were praying with and for us. I thank God for you. I thank God that you're in the Senate. The Senate needs you. For every member of Congress who signed up to participate tonight, to Wes Moore, who opened us up at the 9 p.m. Tish James with the drama on the tape. She was ready. Everybody, we thank you.